Are finally back for our next series. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. We are finally back for our next series. It is MLP Dota between Vici Gaming and rather long wait. LGD. It is MLP Dota and John. It's been a rather long wait. I know it was a very long time. Thank you to the. Here we are. It's going to be a very exciting series between these two. I'd say it's a very close one at that as well, just based off the recent performances we've been seeing from these two teams.
Yeah, it's going to be a great matchup. I think one of the more even ones so far. It has looked fairly one-sided the past day, but this one is definitely closer. This is the first time LGD and VG are facing up against each other in about a month, maybe slightly more. They didn't manage to run into each other in Beyond Epic. They did face off against each other again in OGA Dota Pit Season 1, but that was like a month ago. So it's been a while. We'll see whether or not the past performance will hold up. I believe back then, VG did clear out 2 series up against LGD. So it looks like VG did find that number, but historically, LGD has a much more favorable win rate than that head-to-head. I believe it's a 55% advantage for LGD. So by the numbers, better for LGD. Historically, recent performance, it's a bit more up in the air. VG looks a bit more solid. And you do have that opening. LGD, Ember Spirit's not banned out. They pick it up, and that does set themselves up for a couple of combinations. The Coddle's still in the pool, so is the Grimstroke, but Vici, they don't waste, well, they waste some time, but they pick up that Shaker that we've seen a lot. It's giving you that team fight and control that a lot of teams do seem to emphasize now.
Yeah, I'm kind of intrigued that they actually prioritize that Shaker over the other picks that were still left in the pool. It seems like a lot of teams right now are kind of struggling to know what should be prioritized in the current meta, especially with these draft changes. We see a lot more reserve time being used up in these earlier picks now to try and secure the absolute best picks they can make. In LGD, they do go back into the Ember Coddle. So that combination that you'd love to see is now up and running in Vici Gaming. They haven't really revealed much of their hand yet with that Earthshaker pick. I can only wonder what they're going to go for as their second pickup now. Now, usually would have just said they'll probably go Quap, but that was banned out by themselves. So they may perhaps focus on the offlane for Yang, maybe pick up the Mars, or whatever else they deem very important right now. They're going to use their reserve time.
They've got the option for the DK as well. We've seen that be really popular as a flex pick if they wanted that solid sort of off-lane or mid kind of flex here. Still really digging into that reserve, as you mentioned. It's I think it's a very hard process to readjust to this drafting order switch up. Like you've had the same pattern for such a long time that when you change it up again, teams are just kind of left wondering how to adapt their tactics, because a lot of these strategies are kind of shown at the draft, and it's a readjustment for a lot of teams.
It is, and as we can see, Vici Gaming is still having to think about this. Of course, after this pick, you go into this huge ban phase where you're going to ban out, 3 more heroes. So you can generally make those bans quite fast. There's not really much of a thought process that goes on there. But this second pick is going to be very important for Vici, which is why they're really prioritizing that time. That is a lot of time that we're using up here. You brought up the DK. It does seem like a nice pick here for Vici to go for. It has been very popular. It hasn't really changed. And no, they're actually going to prioritize the Morphling. So they go for the ES Morphling combo straight off the bat.
Yeah, that's a really early pickup on the Morph. Now, with the ban phase being this long in the second ban phase, though, I can see them perhaps just straight up taking out Ancient Apparition to not have to worry about that natural counter. You already have the Ember Spirit in this case from LGD, though. Like, that can definitely just go Spirit Vessel if they wanted to counteract that combination. And you have to consider the timing of the Morphling as well, right? We've seen a lot of games go a lot faster with a lot of emphasis on early engagements. Morphling, I mean, you could, on paper, join these fights early. It's just a risk. You'd rather farm up, grab a Morbid Mask, go in the jungle, work your way towards a Yasha for fighting, or an E-Blade if you just want. And then the Ags, because you've got the Shaker. So that's a lot of time the Morphling will have to build up. And that's something LGD can really just abuse. I mean, Ember Spirit Keeper for Light, that plays really fast from the get-go.
I think they may feel confident going into that Morphling as well, just knowing that those recent Spirit Vessel changes were made. Because you don't really have the aura anymore on that Spirit Vessel, it's only the active now. And even the active may not be considered really enough to really lock down that Morphling and shut him down with that Strength Morphing ability that he does have. Of course, they put the aura onto the Shiver's Guard instead now. But that's so much more of an expensive item that you have to go for. That Spirit Vessel, while you still need to get it up against Morphling, it just isn't going to be as reliable, I don't believe. I guess there are other options, like you could go for the cheaper Orchid now. That became substantially cheaper up against that Morphling. With the Spirit Vessel would be quite detrimental, I think, for that Morphling pick, but LGD, they're a smart team. I'm sure they'll figure it out, what they're going to do up against this hero.
Yeah, it's straightforward bans for VG. They do rip off that Ancient Apparition, of course, a natural counter for that Morphling, and LGD just trying to give themselves more bases, taking out the Shadow Demon, which we've talked about having a lot of potency here. Just the potential for these heroes that stack up a lot is something you really have to start considering these drafts, like LGD with a Keeper for Light in this case. If they do play around that aspect and start stacking a lot of camps up with a Kotl, then you can really start raking in the dough with the Keeper for Light. You can really accelerate the timings on that support, and it just has a lot more presence when allowed to do that.
Yeah. We'll see the Night Stalker being banned out by PSG.LGD, and that's a hero we did see. I believe it was Vici Gaming running it yesterday. In fact, it might have been another team. Now I'm just forgetting which team it was. It was RNG, was it, that was running a Night Stalker up against SAG?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so that Night Stalker, it hasn't had any hero changes yet, but it did seem really strong just yesterday when RNG was playing it, so I can't quite blame LGD for wanting to get rid of that. And I believe we have seen Yang play it quite a few times as well. Not very recently, because again, it hasn't really been that strong, but now that it does appear to be somewhat stronger, just due to the map and the economy changes, I don't quite blame LGD for getting rid of it.
Yeah, the last time we saw that from RNG as well, RNG had a Morphling along that, so it just enabled the Morph to have a lot more space, because the NS, which is causing havoc every nighttime, it's a key tempo hero that it's a pretty smart ban, as you mentioned. It's just having a lot more activity with those map changes, and it just enables heroes like that Morph. So it's a safe ban from LGD. You still wonder what exactly they do want to go for. Their drafts have been a lot more diverse, right? You're seeing offlane bans, you're seeing a support ban. We tend to see, well, at least in the last series, we were seeing much more pause 1 bans, but with VG showing that Morph early, well, you have room from LGD to just ban a lot of utility in this phase.
Yeah. Vici Gaming will have a bit more of a think about their last ban out here. That all their reserve time has basically been used for both teams on these bans. And it'll be the Bristleback that gets removed again, so they don't want to give too much value to that Kotl, and now the Visage comes out. We've been seeing a bit of Visage, especially in the Chinese region. It pops up here and there. Every time we've seen it, it hasn't really worked out. It seems to just really struggle if you don't have a good laning phase, and we'll see if Vici can make it work. I'd love to see it work, because I just haven't seen it win recently.
Yeah, I think Visage in particular is going to really enjoy, say, the Dominator swap out, because you get a lot more value from that big creep. It's just so much tankier in front. You get a lot of speed with your skills, of course, and it just can be a bit menacing. So I can see VG maximizing that well. I think the last times we saw Visage was mainly from Ame. You do see LGD, and there's a Shaker in the pool. The Rubik wasn't banned out, so they pick it up for themselves. They've got good spells to steal from the Visage as well. And VG picking up that Disruptor to tie up their team fight does give the Rubik a lot more utility on top of that.
Wait, did they, with the new Vladimirs, does it work with the Familiars?
As far as I know, it should, yeah. Like, that should definitely stack up with him.
So that might be the way to go then, right? If you go Helm of the Dominator and maybe... It doesn't necessarily need to be the Visage, but you could just go for a quick Vladmir's on that Visage as well. Amplify their damage by 15%, which... I mean, any added damage on those familiars is pretty darn good. We'll see what they do. LGD, they go for the Centaur Warner after seeing that Disruptor pick up there from Vici Gaming. So fair enough.
Yeah.
It's almost like a deny pick there for LGD, because you don't want to give Yang that Centaur. He does tend to do a really good job on that hero if he is given that opportunity. They will take it away.
It gives LGD much more, a few more ways to initiate. I mean, right now they only really have Will-O-Wisp and I guess Ember if he catches some chains out, which, you know, it's not the most reliable. There are ways for Vici to dance around that. So Centaur gives them a bit more tempo here. Yeah, you get a little bit of push from tanking through those tower hits, and you can kind of punish the Visage. Like, the Visage does want to play around with the damage coming out there. Centaur can kind of reflect some of that back early on. Something to consider as well. Just it's a solid pick, but doesn't really make this draft shine too much. I mean, we haven't seen too much Centaur the past few days.
No, we haven't. By the way, I was a bit incorrect with my numbers there. It's not 15% damage, 18% with the Vladimirs. Thought I'd quickly correct that up. So 18%, even more value. For Vici, one more ban before we get to see how these drafts finish off. We saw the Viper being removed there from PSG.LGD.
5 seconds remaining.
Vici.
PSG.
Alright, they get rid of the Ursa. We are still waiting for a hero there for Chalice. What do they want to give him? I mean, they know they're up against that POS 1 Morphling. You know, we talk about illusion heroes a lot, especially in the recent changes, and it seems like it'd be one of those games where you could pick up some kind of illusion hero like the PL, like even the Terrorblade. But no, they're actually going for the TA, and it looks like it might actually be a safe lane Ember.
Yeah, I think that's pretty solid. You've got very fast tempo here from LGD. You don't want to game out too long. The Morphling can certainly overtake, and you're looking at a lot of team fight from VG that stays relevant throughout. Like LGD, I mean, they have the potency for that same team fight. You are depending on FY's Rubik, but of course that's FY's Rubik, right? Like, you expect it to get the work done, but it can still be a bit tricky up against a team like VG. So it's much more tempo based, but I can see VG, if they play their cards right, apply the pressure with a Visage on the towers, get their team fight early with a Shaker Disruptor, then they can take over. And you even have the DP now to add to that push, add to the team fight. You are constrained to that timer on the DP, but with this kind of lineup, they can definitely buy space for Eurus with these 4 heroes.
That's pretty interesting as well, because they're going to put Yang on the offlane Visage now. That's a little bit more intriguing for me. It seems as though the Visage is very, very dependent on getting that farm and XP quick. Otherwise, it does tend to drop off a little bit, but obviously up against the TA of Somnus, they want to have a bit of a better matchup than the Visage would, and the DP definitely does a better job of it.
Yeah. So, I believe we've seen the offlane Visage in Southeast Asia. I think that's basically just ice though. So that's a very different playstyle, but you can make it work. Like, it is a rather annoying hero to go up against if you play your harassment cards right. And Chalice on the Ember, he still has ways of kind of manipulating that. He's still got his shield, so you can kind of deflect that damage. We'll see if he can hold that Visage in place long enough.
Intrigued as well to see how much the map changes affect this TA, like the camp changes near the mid lane. Whether that'll really bother Somnus at all. Probably won't too much. I mean, it's not that much differential in gold, but you never know. I'm sure Somnus will be fine.
That will.
Oh, you think so?
It's not going to be a major change, but those small dips to the side camp can kind of get hurt just a bit. It's not too drastic, as you tend to just clear the entire map.
I mean, it definitely slows down your progression a little bit. You know, while you're in that laning phase and when you're not really focusing the jungle too much. And we'll go into a game number 1 in this best of 3 series between PSG.LGD and of course the side of Vici Gaming.
Oh, look at that mask on FY. That looked pretty sick. It's one of the nicer Rubik masks, actually.
Let me have a look, sir.
It's a really good mask. I haven't seen that one.
Oh! That is nice.
It's pretty sick. Fitting for FY because he plays sick in the hero.
He does. And again, I wonder what cosmetic that is. Because I haven't seen it before. Valve, can we have the same cosmetics as what China gets? They've got some pretty cool stuff going on. And I'm still wondering, FY always has this kind of weird, I don't know what you call it, but it's like something's coming out of his hero, like that secondary hero almost.
Yeah, that's an effect we usually only see from players in this region. Like, it's a really cool effect. I'm just always confused because it doesn't show up in the items, you know? It's like, Valve doesn't want us to know. I do believe there were comments before that this was something Chinese players set themselves out to get. Like, they had to go through some hoops for it, but it's still pretty nice to see.
Definitely is. Old 11. Trying to suss out whether there's a ward on the right side, but now they're going to know it is there on the left. Top lane. Looks like Vici Gaming should easily be able to secure both the top bounties, and well, but Chalice is going to try and contest a little bit. Does actually get it as well. A great steal there with the sleight of fist. Soul Assumption will come out from Yang and just give Chalice a bit of harass before he's on his way out. That'll be a 3-for-1 bounty rune trade though, so a nice little start there from LGD. I'm very intrigued to see what Yang does here on this Visage.
Yeah, one thing with Visage offlane is when you do opt for Soul Assumption level 1, you can't trade with it too much. Like, it's a good amount of damage. It just costs so much mana to charge it up that I think a lot of times you tend to just try to trade with Gravechill, you know, using that superior move speed and attack speed to really pump out some damage in that window. Just a bit more cost effective. But we'll see just how much Yang can get. Again, this is, in the right hands, very potent. Just really early timers on that Visage.
Xnova will have his work cut out for him, just ensuring that Yang doesn't feel too confident in this lane. Of course, PYW on that Earthshaker as well. We'll just kind of...
Ooh.
Alright, bot lane is where the first blood happens. Eurus goes down, and well, it was a hoof stomp there from Old 11. FY didn't have the lift yet, which is why I wasn't looking down at the bot lane, but there's the first blood happening.
Yeah, I guess Eurus must have been fully on Agi. You don't go full Agi in this kind of lane, just really painful if that gap is closed. And I mean, that's FY without the lift, as you mentioned. Now that he's level 2, you know, you're going to have that additional control coming out in the Rubik now.
That you are. DY is going to try and harass him out as best as possible on that Rubik, just never make him feel confident in this lane. Of course, mid lane as well. The one lane we haven't really looked at quite yet, but Somnus and Ori are going to be up against each other, and it is definitely an Ori favored lane with that Spirit Siphon available to him pretty much all the time. Somnus will just kind of have to deal with this. So there's no real way to trade harassment with the DP. You just kind of duck in and out and get those CS the best you can without taking too much damage.
Yeah, this is going to slow Somnus's pace just a tad bit. You know, he's going to have to really depend on that jungle down the line. Of course, when there isn't any Spirit Siphon charges, Somnus can lay on more damage, and he's doing a decent job of it against Ori.
He's just got to have to. Ori just going to chase him down again, get all that HP back for himself. And Somnus will just continue to try and secure his own farm. Top lane, Xnova will get caught out by a really nice Fisher from PYW, and Xnova will also go down. The second kill of the game already coming out. PYW just with one of those great Fisher setups. Let's leave Chalice pretty susceptible up at this top lane.
Yeah, I mean, it's still been fairly good for Chalice in terms of last hits. 12 to 3, not really being slowed down by Yang.
Oh, Eurus gotta be careful. DY does go down, but Old 11 will follow DY to the grave. Eurus does manage to survive. He is level 3 on that Morphling. Yang, meanwhile, being chased down, though another great Fisher out from PYW. Chalice unable to finish off that Visage, and might even lose his courier as PYW really wants to go for it, but that Enchant Totem was a bit late. Still, he does get it. Is Chalice getting very unlucky with those chains? They both landed on creeps.
Yeah, it's a nice pickup for VG. They found the kills. They're applying that pressure on the Ember. Again, Chalice's farm isn't hurt too much, but you can see that they are forced to really just stick in this lane and give Chalice a lot of priority in terms of being babysat here.
Oh, Earthshaker PYW going to be in that mid lane now. PYW does secure a nice double damage rune for Ori as well. Poor old Somnus hasn't had any help coming into this mid lane, though he's going to maybe try for that deny on the DD. No. Ori does have it. Somnus is still having a really good time in terms of CS, just considering the circumstances for himself. But it is about that time now where he's really going to have to start ducking in and out of that jungle. That's exactly what he'll do.
It's in this case where the TA at least gets some catch-up farm that jungle. And fortunately for LGD, your other lanes are doing pretty alright, so no one's going to be bleeding out from lacking the space in the jungle.
Well, that bot lane, LGD, just farming the jungle as well while they can. Eurus, he's just securing... he's not really securing that much farm in the Morphling right now. I mean, he's 13 and 9. He's definitely fallen behind when you compare the other heroes on the map right now. No, it's just the presence of FY always being there with that lift that seems to be keeping him back. Meanwhile, top lane, Yang going to be in huge trouble, though again PYW with the Fisher will allow him to walk out of that lane just scot-free. And the chase will be on for X-Nova. So even Chalice has to be a little bit careful about how much damage he takes. The chains will hold PYW back, but he has Fisher up in 5. X-Nova, Blinding Light will be there. Meanwhile, mid lane, Ori diving past the tier 1 tower, does get Somnus. And ultimately, top lane, they aren't able to finish off any of the kills. Everyone does survive, but Somnus is having a very rough time now.
Yeah, he's starting to fall behind compared to Ori. That was the first exorcism of the game. Now, that doesn't lead to too much damage to that mid tier 1, but you are going to be happy with just slowing that TA down consistently down mid.
Top lane, Yang might be dead. And looks like he will be. X-Nova does go down as well. PYW going to be able to secure that kill, but now the chains do come out. Chalice has Sleight of Fist and does get a double. So ultimately LGD end up getting the positive trade up in that top lane. And meanwhile bot lane, they're going on to DY, but old 11 falls way too low and Ori is able to come in and clean up.
Yeah, it's a lot of back and forth from both teams. You are still happy with how much more Chalice is getting. Eurus, and he's around for those kills, but we mentioned this from the start. His last hits aren't as good as it is for LGD's past one. So that exchange, not quite as good for VG, and it does show in the net worth. It's not a massive lead, but LGD does maintain a slight advantage over VG at this moment.
Well, FY back into this bot lane. He hasn't really left this bot lane too much at all. Eurus. Love him to leave, but he's just not doing so. Top lane, Yang gonna get jumped on again. Chalice there with the chains and has plenty of damage to get through that Gravekeeper's cloak, but there is help coming in. Chalice has been trapped up now and looks like he may go down. No, Remnant's out. He barely makes it. And he really pushed that hero all the way to the limit that time around. You may lose X-Nova in the process, but who really cares about that? X-Nova committed stick charges. And PYW gets the Fisher off. Enchant Totem as well, but no, he's going for the dive past the tier 1 tower. X-Nova, Illuminate. Not going to land, but then they're unable to secure either hero.
Yeah, that's just really big for LGD. They're forcing these rotations out from the supports onto the offlane to give Yang that good start he desperately needs on that Visage, it's just not happening. So you're freeing up the bot lane, and again, you're applying a lot of pressure onto the Morph, down mid as well. You've given Somnus some space in the jungle because you're not able to rotate in that area, and he's playing patch up quite nicely in that TA.
Oh, DY could be in trouble. Somnus will get blocked off by that kinetic field, and now Exorcism going to be popped by Ori. Fisher there to block up Somnus. He does meld. And they don't quite have detection, but they can just wait this out. Somnus will meld again. But eventually, that refraction has to wear off, and they got the sentries anyway. He'll go for the Roshan pit though. He'll try to deny himself off, but Ori had plenty of damage. It is still a very rough time for Somnus.
Yeah, in the end though, he stalls Ori's Exorcism out long enough that, again, they're not doing damage to that mid-tier 1. So that's map control LGD still maintains, just because they waste a lot of time trying to kill off that TA.
It's a real shame there for Vici Gaming. They're going to try and start taking objectives sometime soon. They'd love to do something about Chalice as well in December. DY is going to pop up back up to that top lane, but he's going to get spotted by Chalice straight away. He might just be dead. They'll bring the Familiars in. Remnant away. Chalice still trying to go for this Sleight of Fist. He doesn't throw it out yet. Eventually does get the kill, and he makes it out. Stampede was there from their Centaur, and Chalice, he's really on fire right now.
Yeah, he's gonna be set for a really fast time on his urn, and once that's up, the Ember, of course, just has a lot more presence in these fights with the Chargers. Now, Yang is catching up. He has that Dominator up, so he can get himself a nice big creep, but would have been pretty bad if he was caught out. Still, not the fastest progression we've seen from the Visage, and you really need to see VG start to play a bit faster. Their lineup really needs to maximize these big spells on their DP and maximize creeps and early damage a Visage brings.
They might just be waiting for Ori to have that Exorcism back up again. He's sitting at level 10. He has that Exorcism in about 25 seconds. He might just rotate his way up top and try to secure that top tier 1 tower. Still, Static Storm up at that top lane does catch out Chalice, and this should mean a kill unless he gets a Remnant off, but he gets glimpsed back. Sleight of Fist. Does he have a Remnant?
No.
He does. He's still making a run, but no, they get the attack off. DY will secure the kill. But he makes it as tough as possible for them. And Vici Gaming, they're not just happy with the Ember, they wanted X-Nova as well, but he's going to be out of distance. Of course, without catching that Keeper of the Light, he'll just keep going in terms of defense on that tier 1. However, bot lane Old 11 does also end up dying. Ori did make the rotation, popped the Exorcism and got the kill. And he wants to try and apply pressure onto that tier 1 bot tower while he can still get some damage out. But the creep wave is going to block him off.
Again, Yang up top.
He's very, very deep. Yang. Chalice gets another kill. And now he's Familiars to make matters worse. Yeah, they're worth a lot of gold. 100 gold each. Never want to throw those away.
It looked good for VG, right? Like they won that fight. They found the kills up top, found the kill bot. Looked like they were set for a push into 2 tier 1s at once. It's just LGD responds in time. They find the counter kills. They prevent the push, and they still maintain control in this map. You're not shutting down any of LGD's heroes now. You can still argue a case for that morph, but down mid?
Yeah, PYW is going to be in trouble. Static Storm was dropped, and now the glimpse back. It doesn't get him within that Static Storm. They'll try for FY, but he's also out of there. And that was just a bit of a panic storm being dropped by DY, and it does not work out.
Yeah, that is really costly for VG. They need to maximize these team fight spells. They're not able to find those openings. Still, Ori does have the Yulet's up. Does give our DP a little bit more control if they want to force it out, but they really need to carve some space out in the map. I mean, Eurus is still stuck down bot. He doesn't have a tier 1 to play with. It's not a very safe spot for that Morphling, and his farm is still hurting. He's number 4. Not the best spot for that Morphling to be in.
Wait, he can't secure any safe farm without that top tier 1 going down. So he's just kind of stuck in this side of the jungle, but even then, you just never feel safe knowing that a smoke rotation could come in. And speaking of, there it is, Somnus will smoke up with X-Nova. And they're going to rush straight into that Radiant jungle, knowing Eurus is somewhere around there. He is going to leave at the right time. But now showing himself down bot. You still see that TA trying to make that play. Somnus also has that blink up. Whether they have enough damage to burst him down quick enough is a different story entirely. And well, Somnus,
Oh no.
well, smoke broken. Eurus, he's going to strength morph. He spotted them out. X-Nova will at least realize there's an observer ward on that cliff and does take it out. Eurus will avoid certain death.
Yeah, it's still really hurting his farm patterns, although Ori...
Ori does get the Yules off. Now with the Static Storm, this TA can't really do much. They Blinding Light, Will-O-Wisp being dropped as well. Now the Stampede, he does get the Refraction, but he's still falling too low, and he will ultimately die. Vici Gaming, they have to commit a lot for that, but they do eventually get the kill.
Yeah, it's a really worthwhile kill that does go onto Ori as well. Just giving their biggest core right now a lot more room to breed, and should help the acceleration towards that Kaya that we are seeing up into the Bloodstone. So, wanting that presence on the DP, and Ori's getting that space. While all of this happens, now Yang has some decent space up top to try to match up against Chalice. It's not been the fastest progression for the Visage, but again, you've got that medallion up. He can really start pumping that damage out if he's in the right circumstance in a fight.
Ori, he has the Exorcism up again, and he wants to go up towards that top lane. And this might be about that time where he can actually secure that tier 1 tower. They're going to bring more in. Is DY going to be there as well on the Disruptor? Chalice going to go after that 15-minute bounty. Sleight of Fist going to be there on Ori. They'll get the bounty for themselves. Got to keep in mind as well, PYW just picked up that Blink Dagger on the Earthshaker, so he's a lot more dangerous now on this hero.
Yeah, it's a scary point for LGD to try to force a fight, but they do smoke up. They want to make something happen right now.
They do.
Radiant's
Looks like
middle
it's into
tower
that mid
is
lane. If they're going to lose their top tier 1, they'd get a mid tier 1 as a trade, which is definitely valuable here for LGD. They do catch up PYW, and they're spotting out that blink, but they're not able to really commit all the way, as the rest of Vici Gaming have made their way in. Ori does get the Yules into the Static Storm there onto Chalice, and Chalice cannot sustain that amount of damage. And will go down. Even X-Nova now being chased down here from Yang, and he's also dead.
Oh man, it's a lot to bleed out for LGD. Losing Chalice like that is really not ideal. That just enables Eurus to start joining these fights. He only has a Yasha, but when your biggest damage dealer is gone for now and you're still waiting for that TA to finish the Desolator, you can just join in and melt these towers fast with a Visage.
It seems to all go back to Somnus on this TA. He's just not able to secure the amount of farm he wants to have. And without that crazy snowball lead you're used to seeing from these TAs, he's just not able to get the damage out. You'd love to see that Desolator almost being completed on the TA at this point of the game, if not ready to go, but well, he's not even close right now. It's a bit of a shame here for LGD, but they've got to buy a bit more space, it seems like.
Yeah, it's gonna be a little bit more time for Somnus for sure. Chalice is actually rushing the BKB on that Ember, so he just wants to be the hero right now to get space out for the TA. Quite a bit the opposite kind of a situation you tend to see, but Chalice is forced into a much more aggressive position just to get that opportunity for his team.
Well, top lane, X-Nova could be an easy kill here for PYW, and yeah, he just jumps in with the Enchant Totem, has the Fissure. There's a lot of TP rotations there from LGD, but they're going to be nowhere near in time, or maybe they are. Somnus jumps in onto PYW, who did go for a TP play and doesn't quite make it out. Now DY also being chased down by Chalice, and Chalice will pick up that kill.
It's not the biggest pickoffs, but still very worthwhile for LGD to punish that movement out from VG. Of course, that is a mass exodus out, so you're giving space to Eurus for VG's end, and I think overall, trading your supports like that, just to give Eurus a little bit more space, is worthwhile. He's flying out his Manta style now, so you're getting a bit more durability, a bit more flexibility on that morph to be up in front, and he's saving up for the Lincolns. Just getting defensive items up first, instead of prioritizing that Ags, should allow him to not have that insane burst damage, but have the sustain to just stay in the middle of all of this.
Well, you don't really need much damage when you've got a Visage DP, right? Like, it's just not that necessary to really have the damage kind of item build there on Eurus. It seems as though they might just want to keep him alive throughout these team fights, and over time he can get some damage out.
Yeah. One thing that's been rather surprising that we actually haven't mentioned is that Old 11 has been a little bit more passive in that Centaur. Like, he hasn't joined too many of these fights. He's been allowed to farm up, though. And he does have the Vanguard and the Blink, although Yang up top is okay.
The smoke up. Looks like it's X-Nova they want. They place the bounty, but no. Somnus is the only one showing up at that top lane. Vici, it's a real question of whether they actually find any heroes here. They could potentially go mid onto Chalice. It looks like the pings are coming out now. Chalice, realizing that there are plenty of heroes missing, will go farm the jungle instead. And Vici, it doesn't seem like they're really going to find that opening they were looking for. And now that you've got that BKB there on Chalice, it's going to be much harder to take him out.
Yeah, and really good timing for that as well, as Somnus finally finishes up that Dezo. So the damage is there, the durability is there for the Ember. That can line up quite nicely in an engagement. You do have to watch out for a couple of factors. Solar Crest up and running on Yang means the Roche is going to be a very quick take, and LGD, they've got to be aware of this. Their scan did miss out, but they are smoked up.
They've got to hurry up though. They really haven't got much more time. They've got Stampede available, but perhaps not realizing how low the Roshan is. It is going to go down, and they turn the other way immediately. LGD not going to be too happy with that. Considering you have the TA, you usually want to take the Roshan first yourself, but they're still going to try and go for this team fight. Old 11 has his smoke broken, and they do split out the Centaur. Fisher going to be out from FY, and Eurus getting caught out. Will lose the Aegis. Old 11 is being chased down, but here comes Chalice. They will Static Storm on top of that Centaur, but what a great Will-O-Wisp coming out from X-Nova. They will at least get DY, and now Chalice just jumps in there with Somnus straight after Yang, but the Echo will come out from PYW. He's there to turn it around. He'll at least get Somnus, and now with the clumsy net, they will also get Chalice. PYW, he was very, very patient with that Echo Slam, but obviously it does pay off.
It's a wonderful trade for VG. Sure, you gave away the Aegis. Doesn't matter when you win a team fight that big. And LGD, and that was their Desolator reveal. That was their BKB usage on Chalice. It's not enough. They just don't have that big control in these fights. Big factor there was you couldn't even see Old 11 use his spells. Like, he was just caught immediately. Static Storm. He couldn't get the Stampede off to reposition his team. He couldn't get the Hoof Stomp off for control, and the Will-O-Wisp is great, but you need the Centaur as additional spells just to lock those heroes in. So a massive win for VG. Looks like they're not going to relent with that aggression. They are still staying clumped up, and you're seeing the damage fly out. It's that Visage and his familiars with a Solar Crest. It's just way too much to handle early on.
It's a substantial amount of damage, that's for sure. And, who they found there? It's going to be DY. Okay, so DY does go down. At least he does get the Observer Ward de-warded before he does die. So he gets that little bonus gold for himself.
Yeah, it's not the biggest trade. That is giving VG space once more to keep farming up. You look at Ori, that Bloodstone's up and running, and, you know, it gets a lot more now, especially with that spell amp and lifesteal coming out. So Ori is just a bit tankier overall to that Bloodstone, and it's a really early timer for that DP as well.
That it is. Ori looking to buy a plate mail next. He might just go straight into the Shiver's Guard after that. It's going to make the lives of LGD that much harder. If it wasn't already. I mean, they're not really that far behind in terms of net worth, but when you look at the heroes they're up against, they definitely have much more scaling potential, I would say, on Vici Gaming. Now, it could be rather tough for LGD as this game drags on, especially if they are going to, you know, keep just falling slightly behind.
It's getting a bit worrisome. Again, we haven't even factored in Eurus with an Ag's timing. He's just going full defensive, so there's so much room to grow in that morph. Look at VG. They're smoked up. They want to keep playing aggressive.
They do, and they're looking towards that mid lane. They'd love to get another jump there onto Chalice. I don't think they really kill him off, though, when he has that BKB up. And you know what? With Old 11 having that Crimson Guard up now, things could be much tougher for Vici Gaming. It's a lot of damage block coming out. They still want to try and set up down a bot lane, but... It looks like LGD will just hide in the tree line for now, but they seem to be very, very willing to take this next team fight.
Yeah, they trade out that tier 1 up top, so it's going to be a tower for a tower.
They don't actually defend the tier 1. FY does manage to just TP back towards that tier 2 tower and get himself out of there before the familiars do scout him out. But they're not stopping this push, VG. They know they can keep going. Maybe not with those familiars going down, though. Yang, they'll lose both of them. Does just respawn them up.
That's enough space for LGD to save up on the BKB for Somnus, though. And that means the TA has a lot more presence. You're not going to be worried about those silences or the static storm. It should allow LGD to really start dictating these fights along with that Crimson Guard, so they do smoke up.
That they will. That new BKB up on Somnus, they're going to be feeling confident in this next team fight. However, Shotgun is up on Eurus. He just skips the Lincoln Sphere. Alright. Fair. I don't mind this. It's going to be rough into the BKBs, but DY, Static Storm is going to be there. Somnus will just run straight through it. So you've lost one. Ori does pop the Exorcism. Will-O-Wisp was dropped as well. Who are they focusing, however? Nobody quite yet. Chalice. Looks like he decides to back off once that Exorcism did come out. Not to mention, of course, DY did buy back, and Old 11 getting caught there by Eurus. Will go down. And in FY, he does barely avoid Eurus's vision. Looks like they'll just go after that tier 2 mid tower instead.
It's a massive win for VG. They waste out a couple of long duration BKBs. They only really find a support, which, yeah, they forced a buyback. Doesn't really matter for that Disruptor, and they lose a tier 2 in exchange. So that's going to open up that outpost as well if VG wanted to start invading that jungle.
It's quite intriguing, because it just feels like if LGD aren't able to finish the team fight within that BKB duration, they just can't keep fighting. FY now, almost getting spotted there from DY, but he does just blink TP away immediately. But it seems to be a real problem for LGD. It really was a matter of those BKB timings were wearing off, and they just needed to get out. Of course, they did get Eurus's Aegis, which is still great and all. But if that's how the team fights are going to go, you know, eventually Vici Gaming are really going to be able to overtake this game. I suppose for now, though, the net worth is still very, very even. So it's anyone's game. But in terms of objectives, Vici is starting to really pull ahead.
Yeah, they are. I mean, LGD, they want to try again. They've got the BKB charges up. There's no Exorcism to be worried about. So it is a bit of an opening if they get the right jump in.
Well, they kind of missed out down at that bot lane. They're going towards that mid lane instead. Vici avoiding a very close smoke gank. And LGD, the best they can do with this smoke is just place a deep observer ward down in that Radiant jungle. And that'll pretty much be it. LGD, they might just set up for that tier 2 bot tower. It is halfway gone anyway. I don't believe Vici will be prepared to try and defend this.
Yeah, it's not the most important tower at this point. I mean, you still have VG taking a lot of control up top, so trading away this tier 2, not too big of a deal. They still maintain good control of the Roche Pit, and they don't really farm around this area too often, so LGD, I mean, for them to maximize it, they have to start clearing the camps out here, and playing in this half of the map, it's just tricky when your mid tier 2 is gone as well.
Well, Vici will try and set up for the trade now up in that top lane.
Radiant's bottom tower is under attack. Radiant's top tower is under attack.
They're going to be able to get it fairly easily. LGD won't be in range to try and defend that. Still just trying to prioritize some more farm on Somnus, who appears to be trying to work towards the MKB now on that TA. That is that new MKB as well with the Blitz Knuckles. And he's fairly close to having it up.
Yeah, it's going to be a nice power spike for Somnus to really lay that damage in. Just having more burst potential, because that's really been the issue for GD. Again, they need to find those kills during the BKB timing, so more damage is needed. This should be a big boon for Somnus. This is, once more, dragging the game out for VG, though. You see Eurus building into that Lincoln Sphere now, so no emphasis on the Ags with a Shaker, which is very different from, say, how other teams do it, but it's working quite well for VG. They know they can just play like this. They don't need the Shaker Morph, really, to be online. Yang's got all control they need. DY's been on point with his Static Storms, and Ori's just way too tanky to deal with in the front anyway.
That he is. Speaking of Ori, I mean, he went for that casual plate mail, but he didn't bother going for the Shivers yet. Rather, he is going after that BKB. Just wanting that added armor, and when you add the cranky code on top of that, that is a lot of armor that Ori has. It's kind of an insane amount. So, the BKB will essentially mean he's unkillable, unless he's been, you know, trapped up by Somnus or something.
Radiant are scanning.
LGD, they're just sticking as a team, trying to move through that mid lane. Trying to find an opening.
Yeah, they really need to start finding those pickoffs. It's just when it does break up to a 5v5, VG just has superior control. So they're kind of trying to hedge it out. Sticking together, if they can find a pickoff, that'd be great. And
Chalice goes in onto Ori, but there's that Ghost Scepter helping out Ori survive. And now he'll try and turn around back onto Old 11, popping that Exorcism. He wants to commit all the way. The rest of LGD do just back off, and Old 11, he commits a Stampede, but the glimpse is going to be there. He will go down. I guess now it's a matter of whether Vici Gaming can find some kind of objective out of this Exorcism.
yeah, it's the Roshan is up. There is a trap watching this, but it should still be a really fast take for VG. LGD, they can't allow this one to go, but it's tricky without Centaur.
They're going to buy back. Chalice, ooh, he clears out the familiars real easy. That'll be enough. Without that Exorcism, Vici Gaming are unwilling to take another team fight. LGD don't necessarily want to waste this buyback, though. Like, you'd really like to make something happen with this Centaur buyback. I don't think stopping the Roche is quite enough.
Nah. Yeah, you really do want to trade a bit more there, find a bit more value for that, and they're not that opportunity. VG's just playing really disciplined. They're still hanging fairly close to that Roche area, and well, if you want to risk it, there is still an Echo Slam waiting from PYW. So it's a massive risk for LGD to try to go all in on that pit and just forced to farm up with that buyback.
Well, Shiva's Guard is now being bought up as well by Ori, so he decides to skip out on the BKB for now. And he's actually queued up a Voodoo Mask with the Octarine Core, and I believe that combination is really quite broken in terms of how much regen it gives you. Spirit Siphon will give him a ridiculous amount of HP if he does have both those items up. PSG.LGD, they're trying to sneak the Roshan right now. Can they actually get it done though? Old 11, he does hold them back, and the Roshan does go down to Somnus, and now they'll try and take this team fight. Chalice, he'll go after Yang. They'll have control over Ori as well. And Ori, he is very close to dying. He does barely end up dropping. It's on to Eurus now on that Morphling. Eurus trying to fight back right now up against Chalice and does get the kill. And now Somnus Echo being committed by PYW. He'll get the Aegis. Glimpse back on FY. Somnus has been chained up. Yang is there with the control. Somnus eats the cheese. It may not be enough, however. He's trying to fight back up against Eurus, and Old 11 does jump in with a double hoof stomp, but it's still not doing quite enough. Yang is alive. They do get the kill on Somnus, and now Old 11 will just try and have to make a run for it, but he's also probably dead. Eurus does secure the kill. And everyone, apart from FY, ended up going down that team fight. FY, the sole survivor on the Ruby.
Yeah, that's a huge loss for LGD, and it's becoming apparent that Eurus is a massive issue. Like, this Morphling is just way too tanky to deal with, has way too much damage flying out now, and LGD, again, they're just so constrained to using those BKBs that if the fight lasts longer than the BKB, as you mentioned, it falls apart. So LGD, they need to find some key pickoffs on the back line before forcing those fights. Either you catch out the supports, maybe just immediately kill off DY, or isolate PYW before you can really start laying in. Beyond that, Vici just has way too much control now.
They just haven't been giving the openings though. Like, Vici Gaming have been hiding DY and PYW the whole time. I suppose it kind of goes back to Yang. Like, he can frontline for the team, and he's just so tanky there with Ori that you're kind of forced to just focus on them rather than going on any of those supports. And at this point, I mean, this Visage pickup is sort of working out.
Oh, it definitely is. Like, you have just so much gold onto Yang. Like, he's been allowed to finish up the Guardian Greaves, he's going to the AC, he's had his Solar Crest, of course the HOD has been up as well, so this is a very hard to burst down Visage, and it's just such a massive issue that he's allowed to stay there. And remember, as the fight drags on, you get more Soul Assumption charges. And he has the talent where you hit 2 targets at once, so it's a lot of damage the Visage just continuously pumps out here.
It is true. It is a hell of a lot of damage. He's going to go up towards the north now. FY just trying to farm a neutral camp. Does manage to blink away in time. And he'll just TP. Yang's Familiar's unable to get in range to cancel that off. I mean, you're looking for just more damage on LGD's end of things. Somnus, is he building into a Divine? Or is that a Nullifier?
Should be a Nullifier, yeah. He's flying out the helm, so there it is. Just added control, which is going to be really important. Of course, a good amount of damage. The bigger one is actually a Hex on FY. That's just pivotal control for LGD if he's allowed to farm it up. So those are the next spikes that LGD is looking to secure. VG not making it easy. Invading that jungle, constantly on the aggressive, still on the prowl for a kill.
It's getting harder and harder though. Like, there's a 5k net worth lead. Eurus has got the Eye of Skadi up. They just maintain map control. And at this rate, you're going to have Yang and Ori both having a BKB coming up as their next items. Even Eurus is saving up for a BKB now on that Morphling, so all 3 cores are doing it at the exact same time. Somnus can only use that Nullifier on one person at a time. He's got the Eye of Skadi up. They're going to patiently wait up at this top lane and see if they can catch someone trying to farm this top wave, but eventually Eurus says, screw it, I'll just take the farm. LGD obviously have the game sense here to acknowledge the fact that their jungle is not theirs anymore. They will just maintain this triangle control.
Yeah, it's pretty pivotal timing coming out from Somnus. He did buy tomes and does hit level 25 first, so you've got that bash on melt, which might give them enough leeway to really get the control that they've been lacking in these fights if they jump something pivotal. Say you jump the Morphling. The follow-up stuns can follow in that 1 second, and that's a big enough window to burst a key hero like that. So we'll see whether or not LGD finds that opening they've been searching for a long time.
They're going to meet up now. DY does get caught out first. They jump in, burst him down. Now Yang, they'll go after the Familiars, but Chalice, he's going to jump in by himself. He does pop the BKB. But they're just kiting out now, not really interested in taking the full team fight. Not yet anyway. Vici Gaming looks like they'll probably be pretty uninterested in doing the same. So, Old 11 does jump in, this time catching out Yang on that Visage, but he's going to fight back, and Old 11, oh, he dies real quick. They do eventually get their outpost back.
Yeah, that's a big one. That's a support for an offlaner trade, again, favoring VG in the end. He did manage to force Chalice's BKB use. He's down to 6 seconds. it's not great anymore for the Ember. And you mentioned it earlier, but the fresh BKBs are going to be pouring out for the side of VG. So they're going to have a huge window where they're just able to fight a lot longer than LGD can, and this is going to hurt.
Oh, Echo. Just blow him up. It's well worth it. And oh, that Fisher barely missed FY, but the familiars do end up getting him. PYW, a great setup there onto Chalice. And, well, with all those heroes dead, they could maybe go for a high ground attempt here. FY will buy back on the Rubik, but I don't believe that's going to be anywhere near enough. You don't have buyback there on Chalice, who's really your high ground defense there with X-Nova. The tier 3 tower is almost certainly just dead, and I imagine the racks will be quick to follow. Be a Fisher out on FY, Soul Assumption's flying out as well. They will glyph up this racks. But Vici Gaming, they're not backing off yet. They know they've still got another 20 seconds or so before Chalice is here. That'll mean that the first lane of barracks will go down for Vici Gaming.
Yeah, they've just been given way too much space for this lineup. They played aggressive fast, managing to find those objectives, in LGD can't do the same. They're still holding on though, and Chalice will be back up, but VG, they don't relent.
No, they don't. They keep going. Alright. They try Static Storm. It's going to be there on the Visage Yang. He is in a bit of trouble and does go down. Old 11 trying to chase for PYW now. Eurus, however, does get FY on the Rubik. It's a 2-for-1 so far, but here comes Eurus. Onto Chalice. That's a lot of damage from that Morphling. He'll have to waveform out though. Ori now with that Nullify needs to back off as well. Old 11 though, a great 3-man stun coming out. Shotgun. Not going to be enough from Eurus. Vici just seemingly unwilling to back off. They want to keep going. There's the Fisher coming up from PYW, and Old 11 getting jumped on Eurus. Getting the kill. Thinking about going after X-Nova. There'll be the glimpse back. He was just giving vision, but X-Nova should be okay. Xism now pop with the Echo coming in from PYW. He'll find 3 with the Fisher to boot, and it's getting worse and worse here for LGD. That repair kit not really helping out too much with that Exorcism. They are running very, very low on heroes and buybacks. And Vici, I kind of wonder now, do they just go for the 3rd racks?
They could. They've got the sustain. They're making the rotation up. They won't have the slam, and Exorcism doesn't have long left. But they can still lay on the damage with Yang buying back there.
They don't even need the Exorcism. Like, Yang's got so much damage with those familiars. And of course, Eurus hits like a truck already on that Morphling. X-Nova got to be careful to get shotgun down to the back lines, but Chalice has jumped in with that BKB. Somnus, meanwhile, getting used up by Ori. Chalice still going after Yang, but Yang, he will eventually die. Somnus, however, might die as well, and he does. Chalice still going. He does get DY, but now he gets bursted. And Somnus, he bought back on the TA, but it looks like Vici Gaming may have had enough. Or maybe not. They get a chains off onto Somnus, but there's a buyback out from Chalice. Now Eurus getting lifted up. He's just trying to get out of there. Chalice will run him back in. There's going to be a BKB and a TP up from that Morphling. And Chalice, or rather Ori, will do the same thing. And all these buybacks from PSG.LGD are essentially for naught.
Oh, it's a big loss for LGD. Like, they hold on to their last racks, but they're not able to trade Granting, and that does widen the gap for VG. 16k advantage now. The Roshan is up, so they can even just opt to take that Rosh first before going high ground. That's a refresh shard on that Rosh as well, so potentially no downtime for that Exorcism or just more control coming out in PYW. A lot to take in this next Rosh, and LGD, they've got to be aware of this. They can't allow that Rosh to go.
That they cannot afford to do. Does Vici Gaming go for it now? They're going to wait for Yang, of course. But they're just so darn strong. Like, Eurus has a Satanic up. Chalice is going to start on that Roshan. They have the advantage without Yang being up. Ori, a to show himself now. Old 11 does go in with the stun. They will BKB up, trying to burst down Ori. Static Storm was dropped as well, but Ori is falling very low and he does die. But look at Eurus fighting back, and PYW jumps in again onto Somnus. They'll get one kill. DY, however, falling low, but no, Eurus, he had the damage. He does get the dieback on Chalice, and now FY will also probably die in this Rubik. The Glimmer Cape not going to last long enough, and PYW, he is all over them. The GG well played has been called. They literally have no buybacks left on LGD, and a rampage to finish it off from Eurus.
Vici Gaming.
And it's just perfect play from Vici Gaming. Just perfect.
Yeah, that was just excellent coming out from VG, and they are showing us why the past few series up against LGD, VG has won out. Looks like a month on, and they still have LGD's number. We'll see whether or not LGD can shake it off and force a game 3 next, but VG, they're riding off a high. They're looking really good.
That they are. We'll find out very soon. It is MLP Dota and John X Fire. We'll see you all again very, very soon for that game number 2. 2 between Vici Gaming and PSG.LGD. I apologize about the delay. I have no clue what we were waiting for, but we're finally here. Welcome back, John. It was
Oh man.
quite a long break considering it was only after game 1, but here we go. We're back into it.
Yeah, that was an interesting break. Look, Somnus has been yelling go since Vici was just four. They were just 4 players in the team right there, and Somnus just wanted to go. He would not wait. Go, Somnus said, and for some reason we waited for so long and went when I sent the CM wig emote. That's the go signal. I don't know what's up, Mike.
Oh, well, it worked out. It's fine. We're here. That's all that matters. And the draft is upon us. First pick is going to go the way of Vici Gaming. We have a very similar sort of bans coming up from both teams, except I don't remember seeing the Batrider last time around. And Vici Gaming, they got the Shadow Demon. That was the ban that was there instead of the Batrider.
Yeah, it's that strong opening. It's that here to we constantly see banned out. Again, there's a lot of value in that Shadow Demon now. You still have that great laning presence, and the value you get from stacking up those camps can be amazing. So we'll see whether or not that will come in play here. PSG.LGD, they take up the Shaker themselves, and they perform admirably on that here. It gives you great team fight. We have seen the effects of this here in the right hands. It is potent. Can't fault LGD for picking that up. They do leave the Rubik in the first phase ban wave though, so VG, if they wanted to, could pick the Rubik up right now and have that counter.
They could, but then you'd force the Shadow Demon to be the POS 5, which I don't think they necessarily want for the side of Vici Gaming. They could do it. Oh, okay, they will. Fair enough. PSG.LGD. Alright, so they take the Visage. I was about to say they may not want to take the POS 4 Rubik because then the Shadow Demon may not be in the prime position to get those stacks off that he enjoys getting, but they could still switch up the lanes if they really want. In LGD, they start off with a very similar opening to Vici Gaming from game 1.
5 seconds remaining.
Yeah, it's a swap out for both sides. Just having that Visage Shaker now for LGD's end. Of course, you can expect that early aggression. The damage output of that Visage is quite high, as we just saw. So we'll see whether or not VG, having just run that, can counteract the presence of that Visage in this game this time around.
Kind of shocked by that as well. Like, we were commenting on the Visage and how it's one of those really kind of weird heroes that, it can have its day, but it's not always that we see it succeed very much. And well, last game around, I wouldn't necessarily say it was purely based off the Visage that they won that game. I mean, it was very useful, I'm not going to lie, but I think it was an overall team effort. All props to PYW on that Earthshaker last game. He was doing God's work with those Echo Slams.
Oh yeah.
5 seconds remaining.
It's still potent. I think like that offlane was not amazing, but it did keep a lot of the movement from LGD in check. Like you couldn't leave that Visage alone because it had a lot of potency. So I can see LGD trying to get those same timings out. Of course, this could enable a certain kind of playstyle from them. Maybe they look for something with auras to build up, although and the Luna and the Venger themselves, so they're not going to have those straightforward auras to play with, but I'm sure we'll find out what exactly they want to get done with this down the line, as it's still relatively open. Again, we're looking at that impact this shakeup in the drafting phase has done. There's so much more time in the middle ban phase because it's the much more pivotal ban phase for both sides.
It is. And Vici Gaming going to start really diving into that reserve time again in this banning phase, just figuring out what they want to get rid of here. We saw the Prophet and Clockwork being removed already, but now you're at that last ban, so you really want to just try and make sure you've covered all your bases. We'll get rid of the Storm Spirit, it seems.
It's a fairly solid ban because you don't have the best lockdown with the Shadow Demon and Rubik. Just trying to cover those bases, as you mentioned, not wanting to give LGD that option to jump the back line, and LGD still got to figure out. I mean, it's still fairly open from both sides. That's the biggest issue here. Like, Shadow Demon Rubik doesn't really tell you too much about the rest of the draft. Neither does a Shaker Visage. So it really does cost a lot more time to these bans because it doesn't really show you much of their hands to play here.
Doesn't. LGD. Gonna start using that reserve time for their own ban now. It's a funny thing too, because you don't really reveal anything in these first two pickups, especially for Vici Gaming. Like, they've revealed nothing with that support lineup. It'd be really hard to tell what to ban up against this Vici Gaming side, especially when you're one game behind.
It's rather interesting as well. I think one thing to consider is we have seen this a couple of times. Like, Shadow Demon can be run as an offlane core. You can kind of supplement that with a less greedy, pure support coming out for VG if they wanted to kind of give it that space. We have seen that, again, mainly down in Southeast Asia. I believe that is once more Ice, which we did tend to see the Vis. Also, that's something VG could try to go for if they wanted the core Shadow Demon, kind of give them some flex and openness in their draft. But LGD, they're going to have to start showing a bit more about their game plan here as they do finally go into that first pick phase here.
5 seconds remaining.
We're going to have a think about this one. We should see maybe a position 5 picked up for X-Nova. Matter of what you really want to take. There's quite a bit of reserve time for this one. Wonder what they would prioritize here for X-Nova. Like, last game, his impact on the Keeper of the Light just didn't really feel that amazing. It's not really one of those heroes for X-Nova where you feel like he can actually make that big of a difference.
Yeah. So it was really just more for the combination that they had in their team lineup, but I do agree, like, the impact was less than stellar, and yeah, with the Shaker, I mean, you've got some options. You really do need something a bit more sacrificial. The Oracle's in play if you wanted that kind of core. They do go with the Witch Doctor, which really ties into that Visage quite well. Like, you consider the team fights and the control that the Visage and Witch Doctor can pump out early. That is a lot to contend with here for VG, and they've got to be a bit careful there. Of course, it's going to be relatively easy for the Rubik to say steal ward, unless you do just toggle your heal a lot as the Witch Doctor, but there is a bit more value in that Rubik pickup with that hero pickup. Still, it's a solid one to have. Maintains the familiars with heal, just has really good presence to bring with this kind of control lineup from LGD.
Well, Vici into that third pickup now. Gonna start seeing some more cores come out, and they do go for that offlane Mars straight off the bat. Of course, Yang's Centaur was banned out as that last ban from LGD, so they'll take the Mars instead. Can be another decent way of dealing with the Visage familiars as well. That God's Rebuke does tend to do a lot of damage. We have seen this out from Vici Gaming before. It's one of those heroes that's remained very popular, especially in the Chinese region. They haven't quite stopped playing the Mars, and it has looked very strong in this region. So I can't quite blame them for that. LGD now, with hardly any time left, are going to have to start making some quick picks, and they go for the Elder Titan.
Yeah, that's, again, a hero we don't see too often, and it begs the question as to who plays what, right? Like, is this a core Witch Doctor offlane? We've seen a couple of oddities like that. We could see the Visage mid with the core off. I mean, the possibilities are way open for LGD. It's a lot of flexibility in this lineup, and a very quick timer as well. Like, they come online really fast, especially once they hit that level 6 mark in every single hero so far. It also tapers off quite hard. Like, there is a bit of a timer here LGD will have to pace themselves with, and VG, and they've got some decent scalability with their heroes, especially at Mars. Just a much harder core to have. They do close it out with the Earth so that, yeah, we see that banned out way more often, and it does slide true for VG.
It does. Will be available, but I am really kind of wondering what this Elder Titan's doing. I've got to be frank. It's
10
Core Elder
seconds
Titan I
remaining.
haven't seen in so long. It must be like... I mean, we saw RNG running that core Witch Doctor in the off lane before, so it could be... They could be switching it up in that way and just kind of trying to play mind games here with Vici Gaming.
Yeah.
I just can't remember seeing a Core Elder Titan for a very, very long time. Unless you're up against something like the Meepo. Yeah, because it's just a direct counter towards Meepo if you run the Core Elder Titan, but it's not like we've got a Meepo in the game right now.
Yeah, I think it is more likely for that Witch Doctor core in the offlane. The Visage is a bit more flex. You might see it safe, I think. In that case, that was Ame playing the safe Visage, but you got that possibility as well if you wanted it. Of course, mid is an option for Somnus. Still, really open. I do think VG's is much more straightforward to pull off. Like, you've got the Ursa Mars, you've got the Shadow Demon and Rubik to set up for the Mars, you've got great control, great team fight. The Ursa scales really darn well if you itemize right. And there's some really good spikes for VG overall. Like, they've got a smooth curve going into the late game, LGD. It's an explosive start. Like, they have to take control fast, get these shakers, blink on a good timing, continuously force the aggressive fights, melt the objectives with a Visage, with the sustain you get from Witch Doctor as well. That's going to be the conditions for LGD. And with this kind of draft, you are enabled to pick a very greedy pos one to use that space, because these 4 heroes can just play by themselves very early on.
Ban up the Monkey King, they'll ban up the Kunkka. Vici Gaming, last pick up now to finish this draft off. They are still missing that mid hero for Ori in that mid lane. And you want to finish this off, you really don't know who's running mid here for LGD yet either. It's not an easy pick to be made here from Vici. But with 1 second reserve time, they make the decision and
Ooh.
Okay,
Oh.
Wind Ranger is going to be the mid pickup here for Vici.
Yeah, that is a strange one. Not something we see too often nowadays, and quite frankly, I'm kind of looking forward to see what they get done with this. Like, there is a lot of potency here. Again, the Wind Ranger does have some scalability, has decent control. Now, VG doesn't quite have a stable of AoE and teamfight control here. LGD, they close out their draft with a Mirana that we've seen multiple times. So, again, the flexibility is there. It is the FY Shaker with X-Nova and Titan, so we're looking at the Mirana Witch Doctor and Visage core. That is most definitely something you don't see too often, but LGD, they decide to shake it up a bit. We'll see how much they can get done. They have to play aggressive for this early lineup, and VG, well, their timings are much more traditional with their core heroes there.
Yeah, I'm not sure about this draft. It's cool. I like where LGD is trying to go with this, but it's one of those drafts where if you lose the lanes, it just falls apart. There's no kind of safety net of having a decent pos 1 kind of hero that can just keep farming and you can kind of just keep trying to create space. It really is a matter of if these lanes are lost, they may not have enough to be able to fight during the mid game. Vici Gaming, I mean, they have the Ursa to fall back on. Like, even if Ori has a bad game on the Wind Ranger, you can still pick up a few core items on her, and she can be a bit of a powerhouse too. But when you look at the Mirana, when you look at the even the Witch Doctor, they fall apart, and what else have you got left?
Yeah, it's a sensitive lineup for LGD, an exciting one and a very unique one.
Yeah,
we'll see if they can. Let's see if they can pull it off. Like, as you mentioned, lanes are going to be very important. If they find those lanes, win out, find the EXP, melt those towers fast. This is a lineup that can really get a bit too much early on. It can be hard to counteract while your cores are still farming on the end of VG. But again, you're asking for perfect lanes, you're asking for perfect aggression here, and it's just not too easy to pull up, as it does look like I need to reconnect here.
Sure. Oh, I appreciate this. I appreciate both teams bringing out some really interesting drafts. I definitely wasn't expecting this mid Wind Ranger, to say the least. Certainly wasn't expecting the mid Mirana either. Chalice on this position 1 Visage. We'll see how much he can get done. Because last game around, we saw the Visage being quite effective, but that was a position 3 Visage, and well, they had Eurus to fall back on that Morphling. Chalice, all the pressure will be on him to really carry his team through this mid to late game. Of course, Somnus should be there as well in the Mirana, but you kind of wonder what kind of item build you go for with Mirana on this new patch. Do you go for the right-click build? Do you go back to the magic build with the Aghanim Scepter? There's a lot to think about here for LGD. There's a lot of river changes happening right now from PYW.
Alright, I managed to reconnect right to see those river swamps. Of course, a lot of players have been really keen on maximizing those vials. I mean, why not, right? You spent the money, you might as well show off a bit.
Yeah, I never end up using those things. Like, they always go to waste every single battle pass that I get. It's good to see them just using them up while they have the chance.
Yeah, I think the change to removing those charges have made a lot more people use them, which is nice. But still, look at this mid lane, Mike. Mirana Wind Ranger. Just how long has this been? This feels like something we've seen. Haven't seen in 2-3 years now.
I don't even remember seeing it back then. It's definitely a strange one. Now, I was making the comment earlier on where I kind of wonder what item build Somnus does go for here on this Mirana.
Yeah, it's an interesting. Again, just the core Mirana is so old school. Do you go for the Ags? Do you go physical? I think it really depends on the tempo they want to set. I can see the Maelstrom maybe being an early pickup just to have more damage coming out, and maybe still going for the Eults for setup if you feel it's inclined, although you don't really need too much, as you do have a lot of setup from everyone else, and the side lanes are also rather interesting. I mean, how often do you see Elder Titan with Visage in the same game in the same lane?
Not very often. It is upon us though. LGD, they are running this kind of laning matchup, which, I mean, whether it does much to Yang is a different story entirely, but for now, at this level 1 mark, it does a lot of damage, and Yang, he's been caught out by that Stomp, and X-Nova has a lot of damage on him right now, and that should be first blood. Chalice will be able to take it on the Visage. Something you can't really underestimate, that level 1, level 2 timing of X-Nova. He'll get a lot of bonus damage from that Spirit, and even bot lane. Eurus does end up going down in the Ursa.
It's that lane domination LGD's draft is really going to be having is kicking in, right? The early levels, as you mentioned, level 1 to, I want to say level 3 to 4, is when all of these heroes shine, and as long as they keep applying that pressure, it might just be enough to keep VG down just a bit longer in this laning phase.
I love that little play from FY. He just dives underneath the T1 tower, denies himself, and gets Eurus's courier at the same time. That was his stick charge, or rather stick and tangos being delivered for the Ursa. Not going to be there for another minute or so. Great little play out there from FY. I'm still very intrigued by this mid lane. I'm just continuing to go back and have a look. And as I do that, Chalice goes down up at the top lane. They do end up getting the Visage kill. It does appear to be a spear and a lift combination there with the Fade Bolt and God's Rebuke as well. Just all being expended. X-Nova unable to help him out.
Yeah, this is a low point for Elder Titan. He is completely out of mana, so X-Nova can't really help out too much, and that's one of the boons of this hero. One of the low points, it's just that you can't really do much when you're out of mana, and you don't have the greatest pool to spam your spells out.
He has a Mango there, but that's really all he's got for mana purposes. Old Levin going to throw the Melodic there onto Eurus down at the bot lane, but there's no follow-up to that. FY was being forced out by DY. Back in the mid lane, it is very even as well. The Mirana vs Wind Ranger matchup, it's just a very stagnant kind of lane between the two. They have been harassing each other out nicely enough, but neither one really getting close enough to go for that kill. But Somnus may jump for this now. He does commit the Starfall and Arrow, and it will be enough. And he is able to get out of range of that tier 1 mid tower, and it's going to feel nice securing that Wind Ranger kill.
Yeah, it's a really big one for the Mirana. Of course, just setting yourself up for that early start and slowing down the progression of Ori, which is great. It's still a fairly even lane, does give Somnus a nice edge in terms of EXP. Level 5.5. Really good timings for him.
X-Nova misses the stomp there on PYW. Bot lane, DY now being chased down on the Shadow Demon. FY may just be able to get this kill. He's just going to chase him down, and he has brown boots up on that Earthshaker, so it's just a very easy setup there for FY. Eurus is having a bit of a struggle in this mid, or rather this bot lane. He's really unable to keep up, and the lane's constantly pushed out for him as well to make matters worse. So he's never really safe to go for any CS.
Yeah, this is a massive slowdown for VG, not just for Eurus, but all the other lanes are also just kind of even at best, which is not the situation they want to find themselves in. Now, LGD is not quite fully ahead, but they are finding that early start they want, and if their lineup's allowed to get the start, it can really lead to a much more explosive mid-game coming out from LGD.
X-Nova going to go down up at that top lane. Yang able to secure that kill, and it was just X-Nova trying to go after that boundary rune up at that top lane, and he wasn't quite able to get there without it costing him his life. I'm still having a look at Somnus to see what kind of item build he's trying to secure here on this Mirana. He's just, for now, he's just got the treads queued up. Not revealing much yet. Somnus hasn't really revealed anything either, but the Wind Ranger item builds are much more standard as Ori going to TP down to the bot lane, goes straight after Old 11 on that that Witch Doctor.
Radiant's top tower.
DY should be able to keep up vision here of Old 11. Ori does have another power shot, and it does land perfectly. They will secure that kill though. Top lane now, PYW going to be in a bit of danger. Arrow will not land from Somnus. And so both Yang and PYW will be able to get out with their lives intact. The rotation from Somnus does not pan out.
Yeah, it's a bit of a waste of time. You're going to be happy on VG's hand, of course, find that kill. Something to note here, Mike. You take a look at Yang. He's rushing that Dominator on the Mars. That's definitely not something we've seen in a while. And let's see just how much impact that extra keep he does get come out in the end as Eurus again down bot.
Yeah, he's in trouble. DY trying to help him out. Eurus going to make a run for it. Do they have enough damage? Oh, they might, but they need some kind of stun out from FY. He's just waiting on that Fisher, and never mind, the coconut will be enough from Old 11. Eurus still really having a struggle on this Ursa. He's got the Morbid mask up, but he doesn't really want to leave the lane at this stage of the game. But top lane, X-Nova also goes down now on the Elder Titan.
It's not the best trade. That is still the support for a core, but VG is at least matching that aggression pace from LGD, and even 5-5, less than 1k net worth lead for LGD, but they are getting that momentum up. Chalice has level 6, for example, up top, very close to his own Dominator, and that's a key timing for that Visage that we just saw in Game 1.
I wonder why Yang is going for his own Dominator, though. It's so unorthodox to go for on this Mars. I mean, in some weird way, if you can get, like, the Centaur creep, you can double stun them with Spear. So you can have some pretty long stun durations out with that Helm of the Dominator. If you do get the right creeps there for Yang. I guess that's one thing. But, Spear's going to come out, connecting on the Beside, but Somnus was waiting in the tree line, and he does help get the kill. And now they'll chase after PYW, though he'll turn around. Shackle is out from Ori, but Somnus still wants to go after this. He can't quite secure the kill. Ori now finds himself in a peculiar situation where he's stuck up top as that Wind Ranger, and they might just throw someone else mid. In fact, it's going to be Eurus.
Yeah, it's giving space for the Ursa to at least try to find farm. He is rushing a... is that a Mask of Madness coming out on Eurus? That's, again, a bit of a strange one, but considering the circumstances, this will allow him to at least farm safer and maybe even join some fights early on.
Chalice has been caught out. He is maybe going to get PYW with all the creeps, though no, he does go down. PYW still being chased by that dominated creep, but PYW looks like he'll be okay, and Ori does snipe the creep for an extra 200 gold. And all this gold for Ori really does start to add up as he is working towards that MKB build on the Wind Ranger.
Middle tower is under attack.
Once she has that up, if she has it early enough, it's quite hard to sustain yourself with that much bonus damage.
It's a lot of damage that can fly out from Ori, and you know, one thing with how Ori built, he skipped his ult for 2 levels, but it does allow him to really clear out those waves. So LGD, every time they try to close those gaps, as long as Ori's around, he can clear it out.
A stomp from Xnova, not going to land. They're currently depending on those stomps to allow Somnus to get that arrow set up. Meanwhile, bot lane, DY was being chased down underneath his tier 1 tower, but he will TP back towards the tier 2. There are multiple heroes down at that bot lane pushing in that tier 1 tower, and it seems to be the game plan from LGD, just trying to get as many objectives as possible early on and really snowball out of control in terms of net worth. Mid lane, Ori, he'll be chased down now on the Wind Ranger, but he does manage to wind run his way out.
Dire's top tower is under attack.
DY is going to run straight to FY.
Radiant's middle tower.
Arrow, not going to land. He's just going to try and run, but no, you have the cast coming out there from Old 11. And they look to go straight from that tier 1 bot to the tier 1 mid.
Yeah, I mean, they have to play aggressive here. This lineup is just so explosive. You can't afford to bleed that momentum out. They are still clawing, and again, they've got a lot of tools flying out. FY is just about to hit 6 as well. It's going to be a big one, but PYW does have the steal up, so got to be a bit careful of when you use that Fisher.
Arena up at that top lane. Just going to make sure that Yank can get out of there. They do deny off that tier 1 top tower. LGD getting rid of that gold for Vici, but now Somnus needs to be very careful. Ori is on the chase. He'll use the ulti straight away, just chasing him down, but Cask is going to come out from Old 11. And that'll stop the push. Or rather the chase. But now the lift is going to be there on that Witch Doctor. Arrow flying through, and a great stop out from Xnova. But Eurus is still on the chase. Power shot through. Old 11 trying to run, but the speed does connect. And now Eurus is a very awkward, peculiar situation. And he is going to actually jump into the trees, but Xnova is going to have the stomp. And that TP was not going to work out. And this game's just an absolute mess between these two. Even Yang, he's still going. Fisher blocking him up, but Chalice is going to chase him down now on that Visage. Another stomp flying out from Xnova. And Somnus can easily get the Starport. Now the Echo even being committed from FY.
Oh yeah, it's that early aggression for LGD is building up into a 2k advantage. And VG's trying to match that pace, but this is costing Eurus a ton. He's just not given areas to farm in, and he is going to have to rush that BKB. Once you have that BKB on the Ursa, all of this early damage does sort of disappear. Now, he's going to have a lot more durability in the fights. Kite ability is still going to be an issue, but we have seen Ursa's kind of play around that recently, so it shouldn't be too big of an issue for Eurus as long as he gets that BKB timing at a decent pace.
The way this game's going, though, could be a bit tough to expect that from him. He really hasn't had any time to farm. He's so low in net worth. Somnus looks to be working towards his own MKB now on the Mirana. Arrow and DY will not connect, but FY is going to be there with the control. Although, great shackling out from Ori, and with the focus fire, he'll chase down FY. TP attempt is going to be successful. FY gets out of there scot-free, and DY is still not out of the woods. He will go down. And Somnus should be able to just get himself out of there. PYW joins to try and help out. Power shot doesn't connect. And, well, PYW has no choice but to back off.
Yeah, it's a really close one. If they did find that kill, Ori would have been a lot closer towards that MKB, but LGD, just knowing the time of that control, backs off, and they still maintain an aggressive presence in this bot jungle. Like, they are not giving any breathing room towards VG. They do TP in, they smoke up though.
To the mid lane. PYW. It's a Sentry Ward down, but he got fished straight away, and now the Stomp's going to come out. They have backup. DY, he'll go for the disruption on that Rubik. They're going to surround him, and PYW, he knows it. He's going to go up and just try to scout out for his team and get a Fade Bolt off. And he's going to die. That'll be the 12th kill out for LGD. As Vici Gaming is still yet to find their footing in this game, number 2. Looks like they're going to try again top. The Chalice gets shackled to his own familiar. Now the focus fire out from Ori, and he gets through all that Gravekeeper's cloak. He'll respawn the familiars to get the stuns off. But ultimately the chase will continue. However, Arena doesn't really land with Chalice, so they'll go after Old 11 instead, and they do secure the Witch Doctor. Somnus will come in though with FY. They have the Echo up. Yang being perma-stunned, and now he is almost certainly just dead. And Eurus, well, on the Ursa, I'm not even sure why he's here. He's really got no farm. Fisher to come out. PYW will take it, gets a lift off, and now Eurus going to jump back in onto X-Nova. A great shackle out from Ori, but these familiars are just stunning them up constantly. Chalice will not leave alone the backlines of Vici Gaming. They do get X-Nova, but Eurus, he'll be chased down now by Chalice. DY will get controlled up into an arrow of Somnus. Now they just jump back in with the soul Assumption. They get another kill.
Ooh, it's really messy now for VG. This is when LGD's lineup is just up and running really fast. I mean, you don't even have a blink out from FY. He doesn't even need to really commit the slam at all. They've just got so much damage flying in. VG need to take a step back. Just give Eurus the space to farm. He does not need to join these fights. He can't do anything without that BKB. And even with that BKB, his damage is not amazing for an Ursa. So there's a lot more VG needs to do. Just play the slow game. You don't need to match LGD's pace. They're not too far ahead. Just maintain control in your jungle, and there will be room to grow here.
Well, they're still looking to go into that high ground of LGD. They want to invade the jungle, but X-Nova is not allowing it. Neither is Old 11. Yang has the arena up and does drop it, catching out 2. X-Nova going to go for the stomp, catching out 2 as well. Here comes DY with the perch. Chalice will get involved as well as FY will jump in with the Echo. He'll secure the kill onto Eurus by himself, and Old 11 is still being chased down here by Yang. Spear will eventually get that kill, and now Ori also gets X-Nova. But Yang, he's stuck in a corner. He'll hold the shield up the best he can. There's no helping coming. He's eventually just going to die here. And eventually Chalice will be able to secure the kill on the Visage.
These are just not great trades for VG. Again, they're tossing Eurus in to the wolves every single time, and he just keeps dying. And that means your Ursa's farm's delayed. You are giving Ori space, so the MKB's up, the BKB's next. Maybe they've just decided to go all in on Ori, just decide to ignore Eurus for now.
Yeah, this is a nice deny out from Old 11. Ori's going to make a chase for this, but no, Old 11, he's going to turn around. Get a Melodict off, doesn't have the cask though, and that shackle is going to be enough to secure this kill. Earth Splitter though from X-Nova, and Somnus will also be there to follow up with the damage, and they have plenty of it. Make matters worse, for Vici Gaming, Somnus now has the MKB up. So that win run is no longer a problem for Somnus to deal with.
Yeah, it is all kind of just crumbling slowly but surely for VG. LGD, with a massive lead they had,
Nice
can
arrow.
start.
Arena gonna be out, but again, just so many stuns to control up Yang in this Mars. FY jumps in. He doesn't have the Echo, so he can't commit that. He gets lifted up, but they have so many units flying at them. It's like, who do you focus on?
Radiant's middle tower has
Oh, it's just not enough, even if you focus on one. Their cores are just not big enough to get the burst off, and LGD again, it's just a 4K lead at 18 minutes in. It's just all of these heroes just snap online way too fast, and VG, no response.
Yeah, FY just sets up another. An easy kill out there for Somnus.
What the just happened?
And well, it's looking like a very hard game for Vici. They're running out of space to farm in. Eurus is still trying to just get that Mithril Hammer to go into that BKB. We'll TP back to his triangle now and just try to secure that safer farm. If LGD can just keep this up though, it's looking like an easy game for them. Like, you're almost at that point where Chalice has an Aghanim Scepter up.
Oh yeah, that's That's a scary moment once a Visage has that. Just so much more damage with that additional familiar. Just leads to a very hard snowball indeed. VG, I mean, they really just get some space out for Ori, get some space out for Eurus, and just find those key items. Find the BKBs, maybe give Eurus a little bit more beyond that for additional damage, but once you can sort that out, you ride through, I'd say, 10 more minutes of LGD's huge spike, then you can start answers.
FY, just again, perfect positioning on that Earthshaker, setting up there for Somnus. And it seems like Somnus definitely won't need anything like a Yule Scepter this game. It's going straight into that BKB on that Mirana. Now Yang going to be chased down by this Astral Spirit of the Elder Titan, and with the familiar setup, it's just too easy. The Earth Spitter to fly in with the Death Ward out from Old 11. It's just way too easy.
Yeah, it's falling apart. They can't fight without the Mars as well, so even though they see all those spells committed, they don't have control without the Mars. They don't have damage without the Mars. So it's just more openings for LGD. Just get to continue to apply that pressure on the map, and all VG can do is try to hope that the
FY! Oh, what a setup onto Ori. That was just ridiculous. Just commits everything waiting for Somnus to TP in, and then he gets the arrow off in time. FY even getting the body blocks off at the end just to make sure the arrow would land perfectly.
Oh, it's VG, they're just getting styled on now as LGD, they smoke up. If they want to rush, it's going to be quick, but they want to pick off first.
Oh, it's FY. He's just all over them. FY, I don't think he was too happy after that first game, John. He seems to be playing very, very serious now. It is the FY Earthshaker after all. He is just everywhere.
Oh yeah, and that is why you ban that hero out. Straight into the pit now. Doesn't take too long with all of the damage that LGD has. They will have to contest. VG, it's just, they don't really have the tools to contest.
Arrow, oh, DY. He ran into the arrow. Somnus gonna just charge him. He's godlike now on this Mirana. We're 21 minutes in. Somnus is 9-0-7. They get the Aegis now on Somnus to boot, so you've got that much more in this Mirana. He's gonna pretty much have enough gold for that BKB. But once they have that BKB up, you look at that Ursa and you wonder how he's even gonna take her out. Like, it's just... They just don't have any answers, Vici Gaming.
No, they really don't, and the map is really shrinking down. They just cannot have any areas to farm now, as LGD continuously maintains that presence. But it's slowing down VG way too much. It's a 9k deficit in LGD's favor, and they're not relenting. There's just no room for VG to find any space to grow. There's no pickups to find kills on as well.
Chalice. Not able to get in range with the familiars this time around, but he's 750 gold away just about for that Aghanim Scepter now. LGD looking to try and nail the final nails into the coffin here. Vici Gaming, DY. Gonna use that Glimmer Cape and just walk away from X-Nova. They're grouping up again through that mid lane. Chalice looking to set up there onto Eurus, but he's been baited in. Nice arena round from Yang with the spear, and Chalice will go down. Perhaps a little bit overly confident out from that Visage, just going in by himself. They do punish quite nicely, Vici Gaming.
Yeah, you've got to be careful here, LGD, especially with Chalice and the Familiars. You know, once you lose that hero, you also stand to lose the Familiars, and that's a lot of gold to turn over to VG. They do manage to find a tower for that, at the least. There is an objective win for LGD, but VG, they managed to secure that BKB on Eurus. So the Ursa has a bit more presence. Whether or not that's enough, though, is a different question.
They've got that Blink Dagger up on Yang now, so he might actually be able to initiate quite nicely, but they get the stomp off again into the arrow. but he gets disrupted up. DY will be there to save. They drop the Death Ward, but he'll blink out as well on the Mars. Now the Ursa jumps in, and what a shackle coming out from Ori. Straight onto Old 11 and Somnus. Somnus will try to leap out of there. He'll be alright in doing so, and now FY will turn back around with a Fisher. Do take down DY. PYW, the Stomp will connect. And, well, you got one kill. That'll be it. A 1-for-1 trade. LGD not looking to overextend too much, will back off.
Yeah, it's the smart play for LGD. They don't need to apply too much pressure. They know if they start bleeding out these kills, they'll miss their timing, and VG will just bounce right back in. They can't give those openings away. They just have to play smart. They do still hold on to FY's Echo Slam. They've got that tool available if they still want to force a fight out.
Yang doesn't have that blink up right now. It needs a couple more seconds. PYW gets a lift off onto Somnus. They look to jump in, but Yang is being controlled by those familiars. So they purge up Chalice with the focus fire, just jumping onto that Visage straight away, and they are going to be able to get him. Somnus trying to deal with them, but there's that Arena jumping in. No, he'll just leap out. They weren't able to get the spear off in time. In fact, he didn't even have the spear available. So Arrow now going to fly through. Fisher out onto the Mars. Disruption will save. Somnus just trying to leap away. Yang is still being stunned up. It's just perma-stuns out for Yang. But LGD are unable to really start a big team fight that time around, and with losing Chalice, they don't wish to go any further.
Yeah, it's slow chipping away for VG. Like, they are finding a bit of a way to hang on to this game. Net worth gap at a steady 8 to 9k so far from LGD, but VG with these kills are finding openings. You look at Ori going straight for the blink, and we've seen him get some really great shackles. With a blink, it can be a lot easier to get that control out to LGD, so that's something LGD will have to be cautious about. Ori has been setting up quite nicely here.
Well, LGD just going to farm up that Radiant Triangle. Yang. Just take the front lines. The Aegis does expire. Ori is smoked up with Eurus. They're trying to move in. They've got that BKB up on the Ursa, now going straight onto Chalice again. The stun was out from FY, but they get the shackle onto the Visage, and Chalice does die. Now Old 11, he's been trapped up in that arena. Eurus right on top. They should be able to get this Witch Doctor kill, or can they? They got Ori though. Somnus able to kill off that Wind Ranger, and they're not able to actually kill off Old 11. They didn't have the dust. So the Moonlight Shadow just makes it so he survives through the arena. And now Yang and PYW are dead.
Oh man, it looked like a really good fight the moment they found Chalice, but it was split up one more. LGD's positioning was a lot better, forcing VG to split up their own ranks, and when they don't manage to clump up and get the damage out to one, again, that distribution on the farm is just not great. They don't have enough to overwhelm LGD, and with that opening, LGD can just go and try to force out a tower. It is slower without Chalice around, but they can get some damage out at the least.
Yeah, that tier 2 gonna be under siege. Pings out onto Somnus. DY, oh, he's gonna have the Lincolns broken there with the Purge, so Purge is expended now. Death Ward being dropped from Old 11, just trying to zone them out. Yang missed the spear onto Old 11. And Ori gonna go for the focus fire, but now the Ghost Scepter gonna keep that Witch Doctor alive. Eurus trying to chase him down. LGD are able to just kind of juke and jive their way out of that situation, still maintaining that 12k lead. And they'll smoke up and try to counter-initiate now.
Is under attack.
DY might be the unfortunate victim in that mid lane. Ori Oh, he's a much better victim to have. FY gets the Fisher off. Arrow is there, but he got the BKB off in time, and he's just going to use it to be able to wind run out of there. But Somnus is still on the chase. BKB wears off. He could only really rely on that arrow, and he didn't quite find an angle in time, so Ori will be safe.
And that does open up VG to maybe find pickoff. Yang is trying.
Reyna, yeah, he's going to go mid lane, straight onto that Elder Titan. X-Nova, though, he has a Ghost Scepter up. So they get the stomp off, and FY just commits the Echo Slam, and they get Yang. These Ghost Scepters are just ruining the side of Vici Gaming. They're just unable to finish off any of these kills.
Dire's bottom tower is under
Yeah, that's going to be a consistent issue for VG. They just don't have any way of purging this off. In fact, that's almost everyone with a Ghost Scepter now. It's too much to handle. That's all of the squishy heroes with such an easy way of escaping. VG, they're nowhere near to even finding something like a nullifier in this game. It's just not coming out fast enough.
Oh, LGD, they'll just continue controlling up this this Radiant side jungle.
You look at Eurus. He is trying to save up for his nullifier. So that is the solution they're going to be trying to pull out. It's just, again, there's not enough farm to go around to find out the good pace, and LGD continues that pressure.
Yeah, mid lane it's going to be. Yang, he just jumps in with that arena. FY's going to be in that arena as well, but he doesn't seem to care. He'll fight back, but Somnus is falling very low to that focus fire damage. But Ori, unable to finish the job off, does finally get it, but now Eurus out of position. He'll try to fight back onto Chalice. That Visage falling low. That Gravekeeper's Cloak not going to be there to defend. Eurus still trying to chase him down with the Enrage, but they're just kiting him out. He's just not able to lock anyone down, and now FY with the Fisher once again able to help secure that kill, and DY also being caught out on the Shadow Demon. And Ori jumps in, Old 11, focus fire, no, the Shackles did not latch. He's unable to get the kill fast enough.
Oh yeah, it's forced the buyback out of Eurus as well. LGD, they're going to be satisfied with that. There is no Roche yet, but it's going to be up soon. Gonna time it just right to take a peek there, and it's going to be another objective they could easily go for. Nope, not quite the timing for X-Nova to spot it out.
Oh, Vici Gaming.
Dire are
But
scanning.
despite their time, it's getting harder and harder as time goes on for them, it feels like. You look at Somnus, he's just got so much farm on that Mirana. They might go for another smoke. They'll hold out for now. Vici Gaming, they're going to go for a smoke first, but it is going to be into that Roshan pit, I assume. Problem is that Dominated Creep is going to make it very hard to sneak this Roshan away. And PYW going to run straight into Chalice, but there's going to be FY with the Echo onto 3, and, well, they got the arena down, but they are melting now on Vici Gaming. Somnus going to chase down DY, and Yang, he's a bit of a sitting duck on this Mars. He will also die, and DY, he's got the disruption off, but it's not going to matter. He's the fourth one to go down. And that's it, they've called it, they've had enough. Vici Gaming cannot feel like they can win this game, and I don't quite blame them, they're so far behind. LGD, they just kept winning every little engagement they ran into.
Yeah, LGD, they just run a draft that comes in line really quick, and VG could not stem the tide. It's got overwhelmed, so props to LGD. I mean, we've seen a couple of drafts every now and again. We do play a really fast game, and sometimes if you miss that window, it falls apart. LGD never relented, and VG, after what looked like a really good game one, have to be aware LGD can kind of turn it around at a moment's notice. So we do get forced into game 3, and it's been an explosive performance from both sides. Looking forward to see how that one unfolds.
It will be fun. Game 3 should be coming up very, very soon. It is MLP Dota and John X Fire, and we'll see you once that Game 3 draft is upon us. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We are here for our third game of this best of 3 series between Vici Gaming and PSG.LGD. It is MLP Dota and John X5. John, welcome back. We're here for game number 3, and well, it's been a very close series between these two, and I was about to say that both teams seem to be prioritizing the Visage quite a lot, and just before I could, Vici Gaming snatched it out of my mouth.
I can't really fault VG for just picking that up. We've seen both teams have great success with the hero, just applying that aggression from the get-go, having that great laning presence, and again, there's so many ways to draft around that Visage. It can be a tricky one to counteract. VG, they get first pick, they get to pick it up first. Neither side actually opting to ban it. So it does leave a good opening for VG to manipulate. PSG.LGD, they've got to find a way to interact this. They played through it in game 1. They made it work in game 2. Let's see what they pull out here in game 3, whether or not they have found the answer to that Visage.
They almost had it in game 1. Like, that Chalice Ember during game 1 was doing quite a good job up against the Visage, but we'll forget that for now. LGD, they go back into the FY Earthshaker, which did God's work last game. Vici Gaming, they'll go into the Clockwork. Fair enough, it was a very contested hero in that ban stage that has finally been let through.
10 seconds remaining.
LGD, I wonder what they go for their second pick now.
5 seconds remaining.
It's going to be a tricky one for FY to have his free space if the Clockwork focuses solely on that Shaker. We've seen it countless of times. Yeah, you like to point it out, but the Battery Assault does make it a lot harder for that Shaker to just get his spells off. Even the Fisher is not fast enough to go through that early on. And even the Flare, if you play your cards right, just prevents the Shaker from finding that blink opening if you are aware of where it is, just constantly keeping that blink down. So a bit more challenging for FY to perhaps get those game-changing plays, but we've seen him do it without the blink anyway, so maybe that's not going to be the biggest factor. You do see LGD pick up that Bristle. Now, this is one of the responses to the Visage that we used to see before. You just have so much AoE damage coming out. You've got great tankiness that the Visage can't really eat through. This is one of the ways to really get that hero out of the question. It just makes it a lot harder for the Visage to try to lay the damage onto a hero like that.
It definitely does.
10 seconds
No matter where they're going to lane this Bristle back. I believe it was yesterday we saw a Bristle being picked up and it was run through the mid lane, and that wasn't very successful that time.
Gaming's turn to ban.
Only time will tell. We'll have to wait out these next stage of bans. The Void and Lycan Nature's Prophet will be removed. It seems as though both teams are going to be really prioritizing getting rid of those position 1 pickups again. Just getting rid of the arguably broken heroes of the current meta.
We have seen a lot of effectiveness from, say, the Viper when it's allowed to slide through. And of course, that's a natural counter to the Bristle. So just taking that out of the equation for LGD does allow a lot more leeway for the Bristle to hit its timings. Would be rather interested in just what else LGD drafts out. Again, we've seen it in game 2, where they just kind of go for this really fast lineup. The Bristle is not as innately fast. I mean, it does need a couple of items to really kick in. It is a very snowbally hero, though. Like, right from laning, it's just really important to find that good start, find the timings on that Vanguard or the Hood of Defiance, depending on what you need, and just snowball hard from there. So if LGD can secure that pacing here with their opening, you can expect maybe the same sort of timings from game 2 if they draft that same kind of aggressive lineup here.
There's that Keeper of the Light being removed there for Vici Gaming, and of course you don't want to give that Keeper with the Bristleback. It's just too much of a strong combination to have. We know LGD would probably go back into the Ember had they had that Coddle as well.
10 seconds remaining.
LGD. Final ban before we get to see some more picks coming out from these two teams. They do get rid of the Morphling now, so not wanting to give Eurus that position 1 again, which he did really snowball off quite easily. And now, it's probably about that time we see X-Nova's position 5 come out. I only wonder what he does go down this time.
10
Yeah, I mean,
seconds remaining.
there are a couple of good options for the Bristle here. If you just wanted to
5
go for a
seconds
sustain,
remaining.
the Oracle is a great combination to have with a Bristleback, just to keep him alive in the front lines. Keep him constantly pumping out those quills. It's a solid thing that LGD could look into. It has kind of faded away though. Like not a lot of teams have prioritized it. They do pick up the Ember first, so they still dip into that Ember Spirit despite not having the option for the Cockle. It's still really strong though, and it can handle the Visage well. Like that is yet another way to eat through those familiars early on.
10 seconds
It is.
remaining.
Even the Gravekeeper's Cloak does not really enjoy the Ember Spirit's presence very much. I just wonder what lane they run that in. Like, do they give it to Somnus this time? Do they put it back in the safe lane and let Chalice play that? So last time we saw the Ember position 1, it kind of just drops off when you get to the late game. And Vici Gaming, if they are going to be up against another position 1 Ember, they'll probably end up getting another nice, easy, safe lane kind of core for Eurus to play, and just go off that. For now, they'll go for the Shadow Shaman pickup for Vici Gaming, and that's either going to be the POS 4 or 5, but it is going to offer quite a lot of control here for that Ember.
Yeah, not only the control for the Ember, but you have to consider the push coming out from VG. They've got the wards, they've got the Visage familiars. Vici Gaming's lineup looks to really want to take control on the map as soon as they hit 6. Expect them to start melting those towers fast and just try to take over the map, not give space to LGD to farm their jungle or even have control there. LGD's response though, Winter Wyvern is out, so you have the sustain for the Bristleback here. You've got the team fight tool to enable the Shaker as well, just with a good Winter's Curse, and this is yet another way of dealing with a Visage. You've got a decent wave clear coming out with a Splinter Blast, and can really make it work quite nicely up against what VG has. So a great response from LGD, and fits into their draft quite nicely. We'll see whether or not VG can kind of counteract that Bristle Wyvern sustain that is in play here.
And that Wyvern does seem to be quite a clever kind of way of dealing with the Visage. I do like that. Pretty much anyone that gets caught out by that Winter's Curse, as long as the Visage is around with all its units, is going to get melted quite fast. So now Vici Gaming, probably not liking what they're seeing in that Wyvern, they do go back into the Death Prophets. They're running a very similar Game 1 draft, putting their faith back into that DP of Ori, be able to carry them through that mid-game. And well, that does force the Visage to either be in the safe lane or the off lane again. It probably will be Yang playing the Visage in all fairness. Like Eurus, I believe will probably just take a very stable kind of position 1 core. Only going to be a matter of what he plays though.
Yeah, again for VG, I think this lineup is it's just so controlling. Like they are going for the objectives here. For sure, with a Shadow Shaman, with a DP, with a Visage. They just don't want any of those towers up standing at all, and that's going to be key for this lineup. You can't allow the DP to just use the Exorcism without finding a tower or at least getting some chip damage off. VG will have to play close to those objectives when popping their ults to get the most value from this lineup they've made for themselves.
Oh, Vici, one more ban left. They got rid of the PL there, and we saw LGD getting rid of the Slark.
10 seconds remaining.
The final ban outs now. They still seem to believe that LGD is looking for another safe lane carry to have. What's really left here? Like you've got things like the Troll, which really isn't great, I guess, anymore. We saw the Life Stealer come out before. That seems okay. They'll get rid of the Broodmother for Vici. Alright.
Yeah, just take away that cheese last pick. I think VG, they've got a bunch of options. Like if they're looking purely at the Bristleback as an issue, they could respond with a Razor, just run that safe and play a really aggressive, fast game, or even toss it off, have the Visage safe if they wanted. and just again tempo themselves as fast as LGD played in game number 2. I think the Razor will enable that kind of playstyle if they look for it. I mean, you've got enough control for the Ember Spirit anyway. The only real issue that stands out is really that Bristle. It's a lot tankier, and again, it just mitigates that Visage's presence. So Razor would be a good response if LGD doesn't ban it out, and they do get the Luna out first. So that does stay in the want something to just handle the Bristle back.
I'm surprised the DK hasn't been picked up, of all things. Like, it seemed to be so popular prior to this series happening, and now neither team seems to care about the Dragon Knight. I mean, LGD could definitely still go down that route if they want.
5 seconds
It doesn't seem too bad in this game. Vici?
Yeah, it could fit in for VG as well. That does add a lot more push, and again, it's an early timer for VG to play around. Leaves them with little room for scalability, but we've seen DKs go for the early Ags and just take over. They go with the Monkey King, so I suppose that is another way to counteract the Bristleback. Maybe play around the damage you can pump out there as well. Gives them team fight, and it does benefit a lot from the item changes, particularly with the Echo Saber into the Silver Edge. That's more than likely going to be in play here for VG, as there is a Bristle to break.
5 seconds remaining.
LGD. Last pickup. It's a very fast-paced sort of lineup here from Vici. They've got a very fast-paced sort of lineup themselves, LGD, but they've got to really win out these lanes and perhaps just have something like a real hard carry to fall back on here. Unless they're going to run that position 1 Ember and just give Somnus something else. You know, the Conquer is still available if they did want to give Somnus something to be able to really activate their mid-game. And no, they are going to go for that position 1 Terrorblade. The LGD putting their faith in Chalice's Terrorblade this time around, and Somnus will take the Ember mid. Interesting draft. It kind of makes me wonder as well, would you rather see Eurus go mid on the Monkey King now, knowing that that Ember's going to be there, and put Ori in the safe lane instead?
Yeah, that's it's going to be an interesting one to see whether or not VG does go with that. I think DP mid up against Ember is still, it's not too shabby. Like, again, it's a lane the Ember can hold as soon as he gets levels in his shield, but the DP, if you play your cards right, shouldn't be under threat. So it's really just down to how much either side wants to posture. If you did throw the DP up instead, it does have a lot more damage towards that Bristle, if you are worried about that. But again, the Monkey King can kind of just build up his stacks and try to trade, although his armor isn't the best to cop those hits. It's a bit of a toss-up for VG, but they've got those options. LGD, and the Terrorblade is there. It's a really good Terrorblade game because there's not much in terms of illusion clear, but you are constrained to Metamorphosis. So there's some key timers here for LGD and for VG. The ults for VG can be really important. The Serpent Wards, the Exorcism, and the Familiar usage. Whereas LGD, it's all about Metamorphosis on Chalice. If it's up, they can farm or fight. If it's down, they've got to play it a bit safe and just kind of let VG do what they want, because they just can't fight on the Terrorblade without that.
Prepare for battle.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be key for LGD to again get that timing on FY, just to get the control out, get the influence they want that Shaker to have. And again, we saw him do it in game number 2. There is a reason why this is a ban out when you play against LGD.
I apologize, by the way. It seemed like my mic muted itself again for 20 seconds just as we got into that game. So sorry about that. I've got to figure out what the hell's going on there. just standard problem starting as the cast is happening, but figure it out later on. Looks like we're all fine now. But I was saying that FY's Earthshaker was quite scary in Game 2, and well, FY, if you can have a similar performance to that second game they just went through, might be a pretty hard game for Vici. Still, be a rather passive start between these two. 2 banner runes for each side. No contest. Though it does appear that Vici Gaming intend to try and run an aggressive tri-lane to start off their laning stage. Perhaps just wanting to give Yang a nice start on that Visage, and he does once again go for that level 1 Soul Assumption. So it is very easy to try and set up here for a first blood if you can get enough damage off.
Yeah, it's gonna really enable that Visage to find that key first kill. It is going to be old 11 up top. They do have an early lane swap out, and we'll see whether or not they will have enough in the tank to eat through that Bristle, but it is level 1. It's not that tanky yet.
Oh, but the creep wave is just way too far forward. I don't think they actually catch him here. They'll try, but I mean, it's going to be some decent harass. They could try to dive, but no, they're not going to bother. Old 11 will be forced to just salve up in this safe lane, and well, DY, he's not going to bother either. He'll go back down to the bot lane. It's just a great block out from Old 11, blocking that creep wave and not allowing him to have the position to go after that first blood. There is still being an aggressive tri-lane here from LGD, though, which could make it quite hard for Ori and DY to actually secure any forms of farm in this lane.
Yeah, it's they really just want to give Chalice that real smooth start in TV. D1 trying to be up forward.
They got the meta up. They'll go for the Fisher. DY is going to get fairly low, but Chalice won't bother chasing him down too far. There's just no point to it. He'll get back to farming. But he could go after that courier, but he can't quite reach for that either. So leave that be. And of course, the one lane we haven't looked at yet, the mid lane. Eurus is going to be up against Somnus. They did end up running the Monkey King vs Ember matchup. And for now, Somnus appears to be okay with this. He did force out the salve usage there from Eurus. But Eurus is definitely overtaking in terms of CS.
Yeah, it's a nice early start for Eurus, and again, it's just down to how much the Monkey King can bully a melee hero like the Ember Spirit, although early rotation out, just trying to disrupt some Eurus's control in the lane, but it's not going to be enough to really bully him out just yet.
No, Somnus is going to chase him down. Boundless just on the creep wave, trying to secure that range creep. Somnus is going to be able to get the deny off, and Eurus get another Jingu Mastery proc going for himself, but FY is just around the corner with another Fisher out, and Somnus is going to be able to secure the first blood on Eurus, and that's a real problem for Vici Gaming. You can't lose this mid lane in a Monkey King vs Ember matchup.
They definitely can't allow that. It's FY with a movement out early on, really investing in LGD having that good start, and VG might have to consider maybe tossing the Shaman down, maybe tossing that Clockwork down at some point, just to prevent Eurus from getting completely overrun from this early aggression.
Well, Somnus will just continue trying to farm up the lane. Eurus, of course, will get back to being aggressive with that Jingu, but there's FY again to block him up with the fish on. Well, Somnus is going to get in there with the Flame Guard now. He does have the Jingu Mastery, which means he can get a lot of lifesteal, but that Fisher just lasting so long. But he does wait it out. He gets the Boundless Strike. And eventually Somnus will be forced to walk away. DY, of course, did make the rotation as the clock, but he wasn't really required.
Yeah, and this early start for LGD is allowing them to find just a bit more farm. Their lanes are going quite nicely. Chalice on the Terrorblade is top of the last hits board. He's not really being slowed down at all.
Dang, oh, what a Fisher. FY. What can I say about FY's Earthshaker, John? It's... I said it last game. He's everywhere.
Yeah, it's... There is a reason why you banned that out, and LGD's been able to pick it up just fine. Surprised that VG doesn't prioritize that as ban out, but they are paying the price. Yang, again, with his lane swap out, can get some damage onto the Terrorblade. It's just, he's also very vulnerable in these early levels. Not that tanky at all, and this There's only so much you can expect from your supports.
X-Nova, looks like he'll be dead. Nice setup there out of DY on that clockwork. Able to get a nice easy kill onto X-Nova. He's left Chalice really just alone down at that bot lane on that Terror Blade, but he'll be alright. Just trying to secure some farm, and he's been doing a great job of it so far. Currently top of the last hits board, just in front of Eurus.
Radiant structures
We'll have a bit of a fight over these 5-minute bounties. Fisher out from FY, but DY is stuck in his own cogs. Chalice will join in, but he wants to get out of range of DY's battery assault first, and eventually they do get the kill, but now Eurus is there as well. But can he do anything? He'll go after FY with the shackles out from the Shaman, but the Boundless, he does not connect, which means he does not get the lifesteal. Great sidestep out from FY, and that's really unfortunate for Vici. That's the second time that Monkey King's died. And now, Fisher out. Yang, he's gone as well. A triple kill out for Chalice.
Yeah, this is way too much to bleed out here onto LGD. VG, they can't afford to play from behind with this kind of lineup. LGD takes over, and they are finding a lot more on the map. They can grow a bit too big. Like, this is not the start you see Terrorblades go. You do not see Terrorblades go 4-0. That's just way too much to bleed out, and even while that's happening, you know, it's not like you're applying enough pressure on old 11. Like, sure, his farm's not great, but that's a bristleback that's still going to hit 6 at a good time and is still going to be really hard to deal with if he does just want to play the nuisance bristle, which just doesn't die.
PYW has to be a little bit cautious. Y going to be around, but DY going to show himself in the clockwork, and now Eurus also going to jump in, but here comes Somnus. It's just going to be an all-out brawl in this Radiant jungle. They're going to go after X-Nova first. He will go down. DY is falling rather low here to Somnus, and looks like he probably will also die. He's going to try for the neutral deny, and FY also being shackled up. He'll go down. PYW able to secure that kill on the Shaman. Ultimately, it is a positive trade out for Vici Gaming, as they did find a 2-for-1.
Yeah, it's a nice win for VG this time around. They are kind of counteracting the movements from LGD. That does free up space though, although old 11 is caught out.
Yeah, he shows up down at the bot lane, but that's going to cost him. PYW easily able to pick up another kill on that Shaman. And these two teams are really going at it. There's just no real downtime with these little engagements we've been seeing. We may see another very, very soon. Although, great dodge out from Eurus with that Mischief. Dodging out that Splinter Blast. Doesn't take any damage. And you know what? They might just calm down for a few minutes and actually try and secure some farm up.
Yeah, it's a lot of time given to VG though. Like, Ori's been left alone up top. So the DP is actually getting some decent progression. You do have the Exorcism available, and they do TP down bot. You want to make use of that spell.
Can they? Another smoke will be there, rather another TP. What are they really going for? Not going to run into old 11, but he has vision of them. They'll get a nice D ward, but great deny out there from old 11. And okay, Ori's going back mid now. So he TP'd bot, they TP'd another bot, and it led to nothing, so they'll go through the mid lane.
Yeah, and that's a bigger tower to take if you will force the ult use out. They are setting up for it, and there you go, just trying to take the objectives.
It's not going to really be that easy though, surely.
are fortified.
Because Somnus is going to go reset, but he has a double damage room bottled up. You've got Chalice rotating around just in case they're going to need his help. But that's your first Exorcism down. Ori not going to get anything out of this. It was just a casual ulti being thrown out to really see if they could. And now Eurus is going to be chased down. Somnus, he activates the DD. Eurus falling very low and does go down. Ori trying to chase down Somnus, but all the familiars might be enough stun, and they do get the trade. Alright, so you got the trade. Eurus for the Somnus Ember.
Yeah, it's not the best, because again, you're not transitioning that Exorcism to a tower push, but you are happy with finding that pick off. The big thing here, though, is that all of these fights are happening while Chalice gets free space in that jungle. You don't have anyone from VG really maximizing this space. Everyone's forced to be active. So if you look at Chalice, he's making good progress towards that Yasha, and the Terrorblade's going to be a major factor. By the 15-minute mark, you might see enough farm and Chalice for him to join in, and by then, VG, they should really try to find some answers. They need to take control on the map. They need levels on their supports. Just those Serpent Wards are going to be pivotal for PYW.
I'm kind of curious to see what Chalice builds into after the Yasha, like whether he'll go into the Manta, whether he'll try for the Sanjin Yasha build we've been seeing a little bit. Out of God King, I believe it was. Bot lane, going to be a bit of a dive there onto DY. Somnus will turn back around going after that Clockwork, and eventually DY will end up dying out. They are rotating one in, and it will be PYW. In fact, Serpent Wards will be dropped, and Ori will also rotate in. Meanwhile, Somnus is still trying to kill DY. He's just not dying. And they don't actually get him. So Old 11 dies, and they get nothing out of him. In fact, Old 11's courier dies as well.
It's a massive win for VG. Really good timing on hitting 6 for DY. Getting that hook shot stun off, bought enough time for him to bail out. And LGD have to be a bit wary with how far deep they dive. That is giving FY space down mid. He's very close to his blink, 800 gold away. Again, that's another mirror that LGD can play around and really start forcing better fights out on their end. We all know what happens when FY has that item up on his Shaker.
We do. He's really been focusing down on ensuring he just picks that up. X-Nova. And we chase down from DY a little bit, but we'll be alright. They're back into that mid lane, Vici Gaming. They really want that mid tier 1 tower.
Radiant's top tower is under attack.
But LGD are really ensuring it does go nowhere.
It's a good way to keep it in check. They don't want to bleed out those objectives. As long as they maintain control of their jungle, Chalice gets free farm. VG don't have any cores that's farming up as actively. Eurus is actually rushing the MKB, and they catch out Somnus.
Yeah, he'll go for the chains onto that Shaman. That'll be it. He'll just remnant out of there, and it's back into that mid lane where Ori, he may pop his ultimate. No, they just kind of force the wave in and back off. Bot lane, DY, he'll be chased down. Old 11 doesn't really scout him out, and now Ori rotates as well on the DP, but Chalice is still going onto that tier 1 tower. Eurus going to show himself. DY going to go for that hook shot onto that Winter Wyvern. They just go get him before he gets that Winter's Curse off, and now Chalice gets DY, but they're going to lose Old 11. And that's another exorcism being expended here from Vici Gaming. That may lead to really nothing. I mean, they definitely get some kills, which is nice. But apart from that, it's not going to lead to any kind of objective.
Nah, and you do buy space for Yang to push out the tier 1 top. That's a nice little win for them, but they're ready to fight here, LGD.
And Fisher comes out, but a great hex from PYW, and now the shackles onto Somnus. He can't escape, he will go down. FY, Primal Spring will be right on top of that Shaker. Nice Winter's Curse though from X-Nova, and that might mean DY just is dead. In fact, no, he does survive. I don't really feel like you really want to let this Earthshaker die. He's just so close to that Blink Dagger. You'd rather just let him farm that up. They don't have the meta anyway, so they can't really get this tier 1 tower down. And they might have to focus their attention onto Yang, because he's forcing the mid wave again.
The Fortify is forced down, so they're going to have an opportunity to perhaps push down mid, but without the Exorcism, that is a tricky call. They do have the wards, though, and PYW is setting himself up. They do have a bit of a smoke active in the back.
DY, hookshot straight onto FY. That Earthshaker being controlled up. Hex as well onto X-Nova. Echo being committed, but it's not going to do too much. Here comes Somnus, straight onto DY. Now chasing down PYW, but they got the shackles once again. Somnus will be forced to remnant out. Another 2-for-1 trade for the side of Vici Gaming. And this might be that point where they do get this T1 mid tower.
Yeah, they don't even need the wards anymore because the Fortify came out earlier, so a free objective for them. This is enough time for the Exorcism to be back up soon. So Ori might look to force another fight out with that ult up. We'll have to be cautious of Chalice as he will have Meta up as well, and he is very close to his Manta style. Just about a few hundred gold away, and just about actually 30 gold off from that ultimate orb. So the Terrorblade is starting to find the stats, and they haven't been able to find even a single kill on Chalice. You really need to start putting a lid on that TB soon. It can really overtake the games, as even that blink timing for FY lining up quite nicely with these pickups.
Ori, FY thought about the Fisher. Doesn't bother yet. You got the blink up, but no echo. Meanwhile, top, Somnus gets hexed up again. PYW just perfect on that Shaman with Eurus and the Familiars there, but no, they don't actually get the stuns off. Somnus is able to remnant out of there safely.
It's a missed opportunity for VG, and they are really trying to keep that lid on certain heroes, and LGD, they've got an opening.
Not quite. It seems like they're just posturing around their dire jungle, just ensuring that Vici Gaming aren't around that area as well. Both teams will just kind of sit back for a little bit and take some time for themselves, get some more farm up.
Yeah, it's giving an opportunity to old 11 to farm up, and he had a bit of a slower start in the Bristle. He died a lot early, but he has his Vanguard and trying to force an issue with DY, but forces a response from VG.
Hookshot in from DY. Ori going to be there with the Exorcism, but old 11, he's going to try and make a run for it. Boundless Strike does land from Eurus, and now the Hex out from PYW. It's going to ensure they do secure another kill onto this offlane Bristleback. Well, yeah.
It's a heavy response from VG. You're seeing the Exorcism pop again with no real objectives. They do smoke up. Looks like Eurus does want to hunt for more, but they're not finding that bot tier 1. The Exorcism doesn't lead to an objective, so a bit of a waste from VG. LGD uses this time to farm on Chalice, to farm on Somnus. They've been happy enough to sacrifice Old 11. It's not affecting their pace, and I think they understand that they're getting enough space on Chalice to really carry the weight later down the line.
Things coming out from X-Nova up at that top lane, but he's just going to make a TP out. They may have realized how many heroes are here from Vici Gaming. Vici. So they'll just try and secure some wards in that dire jungle, keep control up there. Meanwhile, Chalice slowly pushing that bot wave in there with FY. They are going to start heading towards that mid lane. They'd love to try and secure this T1 mid tower, but again, the Hex out onto Somnus. Shackles, however, not going to latch onto that Ember, and the Sunder from Chalice will ensure that Somnus can get out of there safely. They'll just wait out another opportunity, as Old 11 now will take the front lines for the side of LGD. But Vici Gaming are just going to ignore that Bristleback and just go for somebody else. And that somebody else appears to be the Roshan now. They'll drop the Surf Wards, they'll throw everything else in and start going for it.
That's a really big objective for VG. LGD, they don't have the Curse, but they do have the Slam if they want to play into it. It's just that FY is way too far out, and this is gonna go.
They are not reacting at all to this Roshan, perhaps not realizing it's happening. And there it goes. Roshan down. It is going to be picked up by Eurus on that Monkey King. PYW will be down at that bot lane to defend the tier 2 tower, so there's no objectives going down here for LGD. And you're getting close to that point where Eurus has an MKB up now. In fact, there it is.
It's a huge power spike for the Monkey. You're not seeing the equal item build-up from Chalice. I mean, he does have that Dragon Lance now, which is great. It's just not quite as impactful and does allow a big opening for VG to keep playing that aggressive.
Bot lane PYW, he does go down to Somnus. And Somnus is just going to try and apply pressure onto that tier 2 and maybe force back the side of Vici Gaming. But here comes Ori, just with the Yules out. Somnus eventually will just remnant out of there, but now DY goes for a hook. It doesn't connect, but they get the balance off. Eurus just going to chase down FY. This should lead to a kill, but here comes Old 11, blocking the way. And while all that's been happening, Chalice, he does secure the T1 mid tower.
Is under attack.
That's a good objective to have. Balances out control on the map. They still do have the Winter's Curse at the least from Xnova, so they can try playing aggressive here. They know that the Exorcism's still down for a bit longer. LGD just gonna start invading that jungle and slowly build that farm up. I mean, even old 11 on that Bristle, right? Like, he's almost there with the Hood of Defiance into the Crimson Guard, and once that timing's there for the Bristle, LGD is gonna be a lot tankier in front. VG, they're gonna need to find a way to counteract that durability here.
Eurus barely missing out on Old 11. Nice TP out from that Bristle. So LGD going to keep playing defensively up against Vici until they see that perfect moment. And there's nothing wrong with playing defensively either, because Chalice is still getting heaps and heaps of farm on this Terrorblade. Is way past the side of Vici Gaming in terms of net worth. Top lane, Xnova will be chased down and is forced to commit the Winter's Curse to get away from Eurus.
Dire's top tower is under attack.
With that going down now, they'll go after the tier 2 top tower. Serpent wards were dropped. Old 11, he'll be there to try and get rid of these serpent wards, and looks like he'll be able to do so just fine.
It's a decent amount of gold for old 11 to pick up as well. So again, accelerating that progress towards the Crimson Guard. Just about 30 gold off until that aura item is up. They are still clumping up here, but they don't quite have the numbers to burst through the Bristle, and once more LGD using this time well. Chalice continues to farm, just a few gold away from the next ultimate orb. That just leaves him one part away from that Scotty. It's a major power spike for the Terrorblade. It just allows them to fight in, mitigate the sustain that even the Death Prophet can pump out, and gives a lot more presence overall to LGD's lineup. So despite losing, a couple of things here and there, LGD, they still maintain their lead, and they are keeping VG in check. Not quite finding the openings, although Xnova.
Top lane, Xnova. He won't have the curse this time. He'll Cold Embrace, but ultimately will die. Eurus, he did commit the Wukong's command for that, but he really wants to just secure this tier 2 top tower. He's going to be able to get it with Yang around as well.
Dire's top tower has fallen.
Chalice, bot lane on that Terrorblade, is going to be able to try and trade. And does do so, but there's a lot of TPs there. DY, he'll look for a hook shot. That angle's going to be blocked off by the illusions of Chalice, but now Boundless Strike does connect, still hookshot does not. Great micro with those illusions. Now Chalice, he'll turn around with the meta. Eurus is going after Old 11. And they've got to choose a target to jump on. DY will go down to FY, who was just taking him out by himself, and now Somnus, seeing that, will go forward with the double chains, catching up PYW first, then going after Eurus. Echo being committed, but it was only on the Familiars. It actually missed out on the Visage. And Ori still being controlled. They'll get the Aegis on Eurus. They'll find the second kill now. And there's just things everywhere right now, but Yang should go down with Ori, as they are continuously being surrounded here by LGD. Old 11 will start slowing him up. And with that Metamorphosis damage out from Chalice, LGD will be able to get a triple kill and win this one out.
It's too much to lose out, VG. I mean, they just were split up way too much in that fight. Again, they're being isolated in clusters. LGD's free to clean up. And when the focus is shifted like that, you just don't have enough with VG's lineup. So LGD win that fight out. They still build up. Chalice does finish up that Scotty. That was a fight without that item, and Terrorblade does hit a lot harder now without up and running. Yeah, not going to have the meta though, so this is some downtime for LGD. Just going to play calm, continue to farm up. You do have a lot more that can build up.
Hook shot onto FY with the boundless strike out. Eurus will chase him down, and they do secure that kill. Old 11 not really able to help out, but he's going to try for the arcane. Doesn't get it. Eurus will take it on the monkey.
It's time for VG. I mean, they've got that Bloodstone up in Ori, so there's a little bit more regen coming out on our DP. A little bit more sustain and more presence in these fights. It's just that they have been able to isolate her. So VG needs to start playing around the Exorcism, try to drag it towards the tower. We just haven't seen that happening all too often for VG, and that really has stalled out their progress towards those objectives. There's still a tier 1 down bot. They've not been able to clear out at all, and they haven't really approached any of those tier 2s, the tier 2 mid, anytime recently. So it's a lot of control LGD still maintains on the map. That's not exactly what VG's lineup wants to get done, but a very push-heavy strat.
LGD still holding out. Chalice feeling confident with that Eye of Skadi up, wants to start making a play. They smoke up as 3. Hurricane Pike also up on Chalice. There'll be a BKB to come out on Eurus now. They are going to run straight into each other. Ori will break the smoke of FY. Rocket Flare, hook shot out from DY, but he's going to hook straight into Chalice. But they've got the ward surrounding FY on that Earthshaker, and he will go down. But now that Cold Embrace holding down Ori, they'll be able to secure the Death Prophet kill. And here comes Somnus, trying to go straight after Eurus, forcing that BKB to be used up. He'll try and TP, but there's so much damage around him, he will just barely make it out in time. And that was the 10-second charge of the Monkey King being lost.
It's really not the situation you want to see for VG. We've seen this multiple times when you're forced to BKB defensively. Not the best use of that item, and LGD again finding the better end of that trade. They still hold on to the Echo Slam on FY as well, because he was taken out so fast. So even if the Metamorphosis is going to be gone, they still have a big teamfight ult to play around, and they can choose to keep forcing the issue here.
Mid lane, PYW gets a Hex off. Looks like he has found Old 11. Yang is going to be there with the Familiars, and there's the hook shot out from the clock. But here comes FY landing a huge echo, but you need some follow-up to that. PYW will go down to Somnus, but they've lost X-Nova. Old 11 still just trying to survive on the Bristleback, but Eurus is on the chase. They've lost the Familiars. Old 11 thinking about turning back. DY. Visha is there. Soul Assumption. They're just going to back out. There's a big setup, but the side of LGD just weren't close enough at the time to really capitalize off the echo.
Not quite, but LGD still widen that gap for themselves. 8k advantage so far. Again, they still have a lot of room to grow. You're seeing the Daedalus coming out next for Chalice. Does have the Crystallis up, so the right click damage is pumping in. VG right now, they need to try to take these fights. They've been disciplined enough with a split up, although DY.
He's been caught out. He gets the Ghost Scepter off, but that's not really going to save him. It'll just delay the inevitable, and Chalice will take all the cogs away as well. And it looks as though it's time for that mid-tier 2 tower for LGD, and they are definitely ahead in terms of net worth. Get the double chains off. Somnus going to rush in. Ori, great fish round from FY, just blocking them out of their base. They're going to make a run for it, or maybe not. They can try to fight back, but Ori is falling way too low to Chalice, and looks like he is going to die. Meanwhile, Somnus still chasing down Yang, almost has the Visage. He's still alive, but Chalice will force stuff up the high ground and secure that kill. Now the Serp wards to be dropped. Chalice has been shackled up at X-Nova. Comes in with the Curse onto PYW. The Shaman dies. And Old 11, well, he's in trouble, but he turns his back and FY blocks the way with the Fisher. DY, hookshot, is going to connect on the Earthshaker, so he will secure one. Chalice will turn around now onto Eurus. There's a lot of damage coming out of that Terrorblade, but he needs to get out of there. But Old 11 ends up getting Eurus now on DY. He gets sundered by Chalice, and it looks like he is dying again. And Ori might still be in danger. His exorcism is over, and old 11 is going to be looking for that nasal goo. He does connect once. And next Nova going to slow him up. Chalice going to surround, and that's going to be another death onto Ori. And LGD, they may have just snowballed way too out of control now. They're 14k ahead at the 30-minute mark, and it doesn't look to get any easier for this Vici Gaming side.
No, definitely not. It's a tricky one. It looks like LGD will try to opt for the Roche, the safer play, and be able to secure this objective fast. Now, you do have DY with a hook shot. They could try to make a steal. There are just way too many illusions to try to go through though.
Hook is going to be there. They got X-Nova, but he'll take the bounty away. Somnus going to jump in straight after that clockwork, and DY is going to be the target. Nobody there to help him out. He's gone. No buyback on that clock. That was indeed a dieback, and now the Fisher out from FY. Does connect on Yang with the 4-star and the Echo being committed. They really just want Yang dead. He will Guardian Greaves, but Chalice is right behind, and Chalice, or rather Somnus, will be the one to get the kill on the Ember. They even want those familiars, and they will secure them. There's 3 heroes down with no buyback.
It's a huge bleed out from VG. They do have the wards to play with from PYW, but he's not in a position to really get the defense. So it's a big opening for LGD. Just push right up, and there's just not enough damage anymore from VG. They're not finding that initial engagement they'd want. And the 22k deficit is very hard to play up against.
They'll smoke up, but they want to go high ground. Repair kit being committed. Great chains out from Somnus. Eurus trying to get out of there, but there's so much control. He pops the BKB and dies just as he commits it. Just to make matters that much worse. And that tier 3 tower, it is not going to survive. Look at all the illusions out from Chalice. Eurus will buy it back. But you still lost that mid-racks for sure.
It's going to be straightforward for LGD. They've got the Winter's Curse up and running. They can still opt to force this out, and VG, their
DYW, X out on the Ember. Somnus gets 4-stopped out of there. DY, hook shots in. BKB up from Somnus. X-Nova still alive with that Winter's Curse, but Yang is falling very low on the Visage. He does die. Now Chalice, who do you want to focus on? They hex him up with the Spirit Siphon, and now the Shackle. He needs help. Chalice, 4-staffed away, but he had the Aegis. He'll be back. He wants to go back in with that reflection. Eurus cannot afford to die, but he will. It's a triple kill out for Somnus now on that Ember as they go on Ori as well, and that's the GG call. They are just swarmed by LGD. And they end up finishing the game in 32 minutes with or without that Visage. It doesn't matter for LGD.
They did find the answer there towards VG, and they did manage to take control early. Their draft just getting online a bit too fast, and VG not finding those openings. It really boiled down to the fact that Ori on the DP in the off lane just could not find those early objectives with the exorcism. They were just constantly forced to fight away from it, and with that, LGD just managed to set the pace and tone of the game.
Well, with that, John, that is it for us tonight. Congratulations to LGD getting